Arata woke up from a nightmare where everything around him was shrouded in darkness, and he was reaching out to grab Hijiri's hand to save her. When he woke up, he accidentally had his hand on Hijiri's chest. He greeted her and asked if she had made breakfast. Before heading off to school, the two of them ate together. During breakfast, Arata asked if Hijiri was still mad at him. Hijiri told him to talk about something else, so Arata made a comment about how her chest seemed to have gotten a little bigger. Hijiri scolded him, but Arata just said that it was a good thing. He brought up an old drawing where Hijiri had written "Hijiri loves Arata," saying she looked like a little kid when she drew it. Hijiri was surprised that he still had it and said it was embarrassing. But it turned out Arata had even set it as his phone wallpaper. The two of them left for school together. Hijiri was not only Arata's cousin, but also his childhood friend. Arata thought she could be annoying and bossy, but he did not hate being around her. Hijiri commented on how clear the weather was that day. Arata looked up and saw the sun covered in black, but assumed it was just his imagination. Suddenly, a girl passed by and he heard her voice telling him to wake up or else she would kill him. Later in class, Arata was still thinking about the girl's voice from that morning. During lunch break, he went up to the school rooftop and spaced out. Hijiri found him there and said she had not known he liked spending time up there. She asked why he looked like something was on his mind. Arata asked if the sun had always been black. Hijiri was confused and told him that, as far as she knew, the sun had been black even before he was born. Arata asked if she was being serious. Hijiri told him that the world he was in was exactly the world he had wished for, a place where the two of them could be together and have fun every day. So why would it matter if the sun was black? She even said that if he stayed with her forever, she would do anything he wanted. That made Arata question whether the person in front of him was really Hijiri. To test her, he asked about his birthday, his favorite food, and where he hid his adult magazines. She answered all of them. His birthday was June 18th, his favorite food was fried chicken, and he kept the magazines under his bed. Hijiri asked if he still did not believe her and said she had never lied to him. Then Arata asked again what color the sun was. Hijiri said it was obviously black. Arata reminded her that when they were kids, she had drawn it red. He was sure that Hijiri had never lied to him, so he started wondering who the girl in front of him really was and where the real Hijiri had gone. Hijiri laughed and said that Arata had backed her into a corner. She admitted she never expected him to figure out just from that drawing. Suddenly, a girl fired a shot at Hijiri. Thankfully, she managed to activate his shield in time. Arata realized that it was the same girl he had seen that morning. She introduced herself as Lilith. Arata asked why she was wearing something that looked like an assassin's outfit, and Lilith explained it was actually a battle uniform for mages. Arata was totally confused about what was going on. Hijiri snapped her fingers and changed everything in front of him. The world around them started to fall apart. Hijiri told him that this was actually the world he had been living in all along. Lilith explained that 3 days ago, a massive gravitational disturbance of unknown origin had been detected in that area. The incident was known as a breakdown phenomenon. The entire city had been swallowed up by a gravitational quake. Arata held his head in pain as the memories came flooding back. Hijiri asked if he had finally remembered what happened. Arata recalled the moment when the sunlight turned black and the dark light swallowed everything. That was when Hijiri gave him a magic book and asked him to save the world to make her wish come true. She had asked him to wake up in the morning after she left to make sure he ate 3 times a day and to keep himself clean. She kissed Arata, and not long after that, her body began to fade. She told him not to forget about her. Back then, Arata had no idea what was going on or where everyone had gone. All he knew was that he was holding the magic book and wished for everything to go back to normal. It suddenly hit him. He was the one who caused it all. Hijiri admitted that she had been asked to grant Arata's wish, so she created a world that matched exactly what he wanted. Lilith was also shocked as she had been sent by the school to investigate the phenomenon. What she found was a city that was never supposed to exist. Hijiri said it was no trouble at all for her to create it. According to Lilith, the magic book was incredibly dangerous. If anything went wrong, the damage could spread, possibly creating an entirely different world. A regular magic book could never do something like that. Lilith gave Arata 2 options: either hand over the book and erase the fake world, or refuse and be killed on the spot, since no one else wanted that false world except him. If he chose the first option, Lilith promised he could go back to living a peaceful life, but they would destroy the book and wipe his memories of Hijiri and the others. If he refused, she would kill him right then and there. Arata laughed and asked why he would want to live if it meant forgetting everything, especially Hijiri. He asked where the real Hijiri was and what had happened to her. The fake Hijiri explained that the real one was still alive, while she was just a shadow projection of her. The real Hijiri was somewhere across space and time. Once Arata realized that Hijiri was still alive, he said he would not give up the magic book or accept death. Instead, he chose a third option. Arata then followed Lilith to Biblia Academy to learn magic. The magic school was located deep in the countryside. Lilith was still surprised that Arata had been let off so easily. Nothing like that had ever happened before. Arata had previously asked to become a mage, believing that since all mages had magic books, that meant he could become one too. Lilith had never heard of something like that, but considering he had created an entire world, it made sense. Arata was confident in his choice to become a mage, no matter how small the chance might be. While walking through the academy halls, Arata found out that Lilith was actually a teacher at the school. He asked her how old she was, and she replied that she was the same age as him. She showed him his classroom and reminded him to treat everyone with respect. Lilith introduced Arata to the class and he greeted everyone. Out of nowhere, Selena asked Arata what kind of girls he liked. Arata replied that he appreciated all kinds of personalities, but what mattered most to him was someone who was kind and beautiful on the inside. Selena asked again if it was really true that Arata could create a new world, even though that kind of power was supposedly only possible for someone on the level of a demon lord. Arata then asked if there was truly no one else who could do something like that. Suddenly, the whole class erupted in excitement, saying that they had a future demon lord candidate right there in their class. Rumors started flying around the school about Arata, the new student who supposedly had magic as powerful as a demon lord. Selena had deliberately spread the news to everyone, even claiming that Arata had the ability to create his own world. That same day, the headmaster called Arata to his office. Lilith mentioned that because of the rumor, they had not been able to get anything done in class. Arata just shrugged it off, saying the rumor actually sounded kind of cool. The headmaster welcomed Arata on behalf of the school and explained that Biblia Academy was actually a super-secret organization that trained mages. The school was backed by governments from all over the world and handled unsolved cases involving magic. At Biblia Academy, mages were known as Magus. Arata asked if becoming a mage meant he could bring Hijiri back. The headmaster said he could not guarantee anything, but magic had the potential to make the impossible possible. In other words, whether something could happen or not really depended on the individual. Lilith added that there were no shortcuts. Only those who work hard and stayed disciplined would succeed. Arata reminded them that the headmaster had just said magic could make the impossible happen. Lilith did not have an answer for that. The headmaster confirmed what he had said and went on to explain that the school had 7 top students, each one outstanding in their field, who were called the Trinity 7. They were like boss-level characters in a game, and Lilith was one of them. Arata acknowledged that Lilith certainly looked the part, though Lilith insisted that appearance did not mean anything. The headmaster told Arata that if he could get to know the Trinity 7 and earn their trust, he might begin to understand what it truly meant to be a mage. After they left the headmaster's office, Lilith told Arata not to take everything the headmaster said so seriously. While walking through the hallway, Arata suddenly sensed someone's presence above him. The girl dropped down from the ceiling, realizing that Arata had noticed her. She landed gracefully and approached him. Arata was impressed and said she looked like a ninja. The girl introduced herself as Leifi. She actually was a ninja. Arata asked if that meant she wasn't a mage. Leifi explained that ninja arts, astrology, and even more intimate forms of magic all fell under the category of sorcery. Arata was surprised by the last part, but Lilith quickly told him it wasn't any of his business. Lilith then pointed out that Leifi was also one of the Trinity 7. Arata said Leifi was pretty amazing. Leifi playfully claimed she knew everything, from deadly combat techniques to more risky tricks. Lilith quickly stepped in, asking Leifi to stop talking like that. Leifi laughed and said she was only joking. She added that she found Arata amusing and kind of cute. Arata replied that he was just acting normal, but Lilith said he was anything but normal. Curious, Arata asked what the other members of the Trinity 7 were like. Leifi told him they were currently out on a transformation mission. She pointed outside at 2 girls, Akio and Mira. According to Leifi, when it came to raw ability, Mira was said to be even more skilled than Lilith, and in terms of offense, Akio was practically unbeatable. Arata was surprised to find out that all the members were girls. According to Leifi, magic is rooted in research on thoughts and emotions, which is why girls are generally more suited to being mages. Arata then asked if that meant being more emotional, like being honest about one's desires, was better. Lilith quickly shut that down, telling him that wasn't the case and that he needed to keep himself in check with things like that. Leifi and Arata laughed at Lilith, teasing her about how she seemed a bit too interested in that kind of topic. Annoyed, Lilith smacked Arata and stormed off. Arata only then realized that Lilith was actually more emotional than he thought. Leffy pointed out that she had never seen Lilith that expressive before. Usually, she was more of the calm and collected type. So the fact that she acted like that toward Arata meant he might actually be someone special to her. That night, Arata was lying in bed in his room trying to figure out where his grimoire had gone. Out of nowhere, the book appeared, floating right near his neck. The grimoire asked if he was surprised. Arata replied that after everything that happened that day, not much could surprise him anymore. The book suggested that he take a bath, saying it'd be refreshing, especially after such a long day. Arata made his way to the boys' bathroom, planning to soak in the tub. To his shock, he spotted Hijiri already in there. Trying to keep it cool, Arata greeted her casually. As he started washing his hair, Hijiri suddenly told him that he was using the wrong bottle. It wasn't shampoo. She held up the actual shampoo bottle to show him. Arata freaked out, shouting that she was the one who should be screaming out of surprise. Instead, Hijiri calmly mimicked his scream in his soft voice. Thrown off by how unfazed Hijiri seemed, Arata froze. Then Hijiri blurted out something totally unexpected, mentioning her size. Completely panicked, Arata sprinted out of the bathroom, yelling the whole way. Lilith, seeing the commotion, asked what was going on, but she quickly turned around after realizing Arata wasn't wearing a shirt. That, she said, was totally inappropriate. Arata couldn't help thinking that Hijiri's reaction had been nothing like Lilith's. Lilith had the kind of response you'd expect from someone who just saw a guy without clothes. Arata told her that Hijiri had been in the bathroom, but Lilith asked if he met Erin. She explained that Erin was one of the Trinity Seven, and honestly, she thought Erin looked a lot like Hijiri. Lilith went to find Erin and reminded her that she was in the boys' bathroom. Erin had gone in on purpose, thinking there wouldn't be any guys there. When Lilith told her that someone was already inside, Erin didn't seem to care in the slightest. After getting dressed, Arata called for his grimoire again. The book asked if he wasn't happy after all. Most guys might be. But Arata admitted he didn't know how to feel. The grimoire explained that while Erin might have the same face as Hijiri, what was inside her was completely different. Just getting to know her was already something meaningful. Arata started to realize that Erin might be connected to Hijiri in some way. And the Trinity Seven, they were probably going to be a huge part of his life. Suddenly, Lilith shouted from outside the room, telling Arata to please put some pants on. That day, Lilith was teaching in Arata's class. Everyone seemed to be watching Arata closely, and he couldn't figure out why. When he asked Lilith about it, she got no idea either. Erin, who sat next to Arata, had been keeping a constant eye on him. She followed him everywhere he went. During lunch break, Erin sat directly in front of him while he was trying to enjoy his meal. She kept tailing him around, even following him toward the bathroom. Arata tried to stop her from entering the men's room, but Erin casually said she didn't mind. He quickly pointed out that he minded, and clearly, it was bothering him. He asked her why she had been following him around all day and watching his every move. Erin responded by asking if she really did that. That just made Arata even more frustrated. Erin asked if he didn't like jokes. He told her it wasn't that he hated jokes, but there were limits. Erin said she was keeping an eye on him because he was the future demon lord. She explained that it was only natural for her to watch over someone who would be her future partner. Then she walked off, saying he'd probably understand soon enough. Later that day, Arata found Selena, Leffy, and Lilith hanging out in his room. He asked why they were all there. Selena said she wanted to interview him. Leffy was just curious to see what his room looked like. Lilith, on the other hand, said she couldn't leave the girls alone in a boy's room, especially since she was still technically a teacher, even if she was the same age as Arata. Selena started her interview, mentioning that the future demon lord was the center of attention at school. Arata agreed to be interviewed. When asked about his favorite food, he said it was fried chicken. Leffy offered to make him some, even joking that she'd add a love potion to it. Surprisingly, Arata didn't say no. Selena asked if he was okay with that, even if there was a love potion in it. He said he didn't mind, it wasn't like the fried chicken he usually had. Then she asked who he'd go after first, since eating that chicken might make him go wild. Arata replied that he'd probably go for whoever had the biggest chest. Lilith was clearly annoyed by his answer. Arata apologized and said he was just joking. He then asked them to tell him more about magic. Lilith agreed to help. Selena whispered to Leffy that Lilith seemed like a surprisingly caring teacher. Leffy responded that when it came to anything related to classwork, Lilith would always be gentle. That led both of them to start imagining something suggestive between Lilith and Arata. Lilith quickly shut that down, saying it was never going to happen. Selena and Leify teased that Lilith looked especially cute and flustered when being teased. Arata then asked Lilith about the magic book she was holding. She explained that it was the Astel manuscript. She found out about it from the headmaster, and it turned out to be a legendary magic book said to hold information about another world. Arata finally understood just how important the book really was. The whole reason he came to this magic school was to follow the clues from that book and hopefully find Hijiri. Lilith told him it made sense that he didn't know about the manuscript. It had always been considered just a legend. Lilith went on to explain that what a mage needed was a research concept known as a thema, and that the 7 deadly sins serve as their archives. Suddenly, the room went dark. At first, they thought it was a power outage, but the magic book announced that they were actually trapped inside a barrier. The book began to glow. In the confusion, Arata accidentally landed on top of Selena, and his hand ended up on Lilith's chest. Lilith screamed and immediately slapped him. Neither the door handle nor the window would open. They were really stuck inside the barrier, a miniature version of another world created by Arata himself. Hearing Arata talk so casually with a magic book, Selena was amazed that he could discuss something so incredible without any hesitation. Arata explained that since he already understood what was going on, there was no point in freaking out. Lilith said the barrier had cut them off from their dimension, and that it was the first time she had seen anything like it even after all her years at the academy. The magic book mentioned that the current game seemed to be about figuring out how to escape from their situation. Arata suspected that the book actually knew how to get out, but unfortunately, it went back to sleep, telling them to just let it know once they'd solved the puzzle. Before it dozed off, Arata asked the book not to turn off its light. Even though they were all trapped, no one panicked, thankfully. According to Arata, panicking was pointless. What mattered was doing whatever they could. He tried smashing through the trap's wall with a chair, but the chair shattered. Arata brushed it off, saying it wasn't a big deal. Selena wondered if he was doing something completely irrational. Arata explained that the book had told him to think that way because magic wasn't limited by logic. So doing something illogical might be the key to breaking out. But it turned out he was wrong. Selena started wondering who set this up and why. Leify guessed that Arata might be a main target. Arata thought whoever was behind it was probably testing his power. The problem was, it was hard to prove anything when he couldn't really do much. Still, although it was all vague, he had a hunch who was behind it. For now, though, he was willing to play along. They began checking every corner of the room. At one point, Arata even suggested they just give up and take a nap. Selena quickly reminded him that giving up wasn't an option. She also pointed out something important Arata had overlooked. There wasn't a bathroom in the room. Arata told everyone not to worry, saying that if anything happened, he wouldn't say a word about it. Suddenly, Lilith looked like she was struggling to hold something in, but she didn't say anything. Seeing this, both Leify and Selena panicked. They were running out of time and had to get out of the barrier fast. Arata joked that if a hot teacher like Lilith had an accident, it would definitely ruin the vibe in a weird and dangerous way. Selena tried to encourage Lilith to hang in there. But not long after, both Leify and Selena started showing the same signs. They were clearly fighting the urge as well. With no other option, Arata decided to call on the magic book again. It was still half asleep, so Arata pretended that he had already figured out how to escape. Leify and Selena followed his lead and claimed the same thing. Then Arata told the book they didn't need its help anymore. Lilith thought that kind of cheap trick wouldn't work on a legendary magic book. But suddenly, the book spoke up and asked if they had noticed something strange under the bed. Hearing that, Arata immediately instructed the others to check underneath. As soon as they sensed a magic source under the bed, Lilith didn't hesitate. She blasted it. The magic source was destroyed and the door finally unlocked. Arata wasted no time telling the 3 of them to head to the bathroom. The magic book commented that Arata was smarter than it thought. He even managed to fool a book like that. And clearly, solving the puzzle in that way wasn't the logical route at all. The book said it was really looking forward to the thema Arata would choose next. Arata then asked how to make the most out of a research thema. The magic book seemed surprised that he didn't already know. Just then, Erin appeared in front of the room and explained that a thema was a research concept that consumed a wizard's full focus. It involved carrying out everything they'd learned in their research, and a wizard could cast their magic using that thema as a spell. Arata guessed the barrier must have been Erin's, since she showed up at the perfect moment. Erin admitted she didn't think Arata would be able to break through with such a cheap trick. But Arata believed it was actually a clever and courageous win. Erin asked if he was mad at her. Arata smiled and replied that thanks to her, he got to witness a pretty strange but interesting scene involving 3 attractive girls trying to hold it in. He even thanked her for it. Erin asked Arata if he had a habit of peeking on girls while they were using the bathroom. If that was the case, she said she'd just go right there. Arata called her a total maniac. Suddenly, the magic book chimed in, saying Arata always acted like a good guy whenever he was around Erin. But Arata figured the book was just messing with him. The book then asked if it was because Erin looked like Hijiri, and Arata admitted he hadn't really thought about that. Erin greeted the magic book and introduced herself. They hit it off pretty quickly, and she ended up borrowing the book. Arata couldn't deny it. Erin really did remind him of Hijiri. Curious, he asked Erin why she had sealed off his room. Turns out it was because Arata was being referred to as the Demon Lord candidate. Confused, Arata wondered why everyone kept calling him that and asked what exactly a Demon Lord was supposed to be. Erin explained that it meant he was destined to be the king of those who walk the path of destruction, and that was him. She also mentioned that the headmaster knew about it too. Right then, the headmaster suddenly appeared in front of them. But instead of acknowledging him, Arata asked Erin if they could go somewhere more private to talk in detail. Surprisingly, they completely ignored the headmaster, even though he had just used a flashy technique to make an entrance. Arata and Erin walked into a room where Lilith was already waiting. Without warning, Erin casually asked Arata if he would be interested in sharing a bed before marriage. Arata responded by saying it was a bold idea, leaving Lilith completely stunned by the unexpected conversation. Arata then told Lilith that her presence helped him stay calm and asked if she would stay with him a little longer. Seeing that, Erin accused Arata of being unfaithful to her. Arata just smiled and joked that having them both around did not sound like a bad thing. That earned him a sharp slap from Lilith. Trying to shift the focus, Arata asked Erin why she had locked them inside his room. Lilith was surprised to learn that Erin was behind it. Erin explained that she did not mean to trap anyone, she just did not want to waste time. She added that the headmaster had told her a strong emotional conflict could trigger a major magical phenomenon in the Demon Lord candidate. Arata suggested they go talk to the headmaster, but Lilith revealed she had already dealt with him by tying him up and tossing him into the waste incinerator, since she thought he would only make things worse. Still confused, Lilith asked why the situation needed to escalate into a destructive magical event. Erin said she wanted to show them something. She told Arata to place his hand on hers, and a strange magical force began to take shape. Erin linked it to the Ira archive to activate her magic Thema. Her Thema was Ruina, which meant destruction. Arata suddenly felt a surge of pain as Erin broke through the magical restraints of his spellbook. She forced its limits, making it impossible for Arata to hold back the power inside him. His magic book then asked Erin if she was trying to push Arata's magic beyond its limits. Lilith began to worry. If this continued, the entire school might be affected by a destructive magical reaction. Not long after, objects all around the school began breaking down into tiny particles. Lilith realized this was the phenomenon they had been warned about, and it looked extremely dangerous. Erin explained that destruction was the core of her Thema. Since Arata was closest to Ruina, she believed it was their responsibility as mages to study this kind of magic, no matter how extreme it seemed. Even she had not expected the effect to be so powerful. Meanwhile, Selena approached Leify and asked what was happening. Leify guessed it had to be a breakdown phenomenon, especially since even the sun appeared to be darkening. The headmaster, tied up elsewhere, was in disbelief that Erin had actually triggered the event. If it kept spreading, the entire academy could collapse, and he knew he could not allow that to happen. The magical energy kept growing. Erin was shocked by how much power had been unleashed. Lilith realized that if this did not stop, the damage might not be limited to just the school, it could reach far beyond that. She aimed her weapon at Arata, preparing to stop him, but Erin stepped between them. Lilith asked her to move, but Erin refused. She could not stand by while someone hurt the man she considered her future partner. Lilith reminded her that the destruction could take out everything, including Erin herself. But Erin insisted. To her, the purpose of magic was to explore the unknown, even if it meant stepping into something as dangerous as destruction. Just then, Mira and Akio suddenly broke through the wall, calling in a surprise entrance. They had just returned from trying to contain another breakdown event elsewhere, only to find their own school under threat. Mira was a top Brumoyer security officer, and Akio held the third highest rank in that division. Lilith asked why they were back so soon, since their mission was still underway. Akio answered that it had already been wrapped up. Suddenly, the destructive energy stopped. Mira had used her own powerful magic to neutralize it. Her Thuma was Eustitia, linked to Superbia, the archive of pride. Mira stated that she would not allow any form of magical corruption to spread. She then ordered Akio to eliminate Arata, since he was the source of the incident. Akio activated her magic and prepared to strike. Lilith stepped forward and told her not to do it. Erin tried to move but realized she could not. Akio told them not to take it personally. This was just part of her duty. She was there to eliminate anything that threatened balance, and Arata was currently seen as that threat. Without hesitation, she launched a powerful kick directly at him. Arata and Arin were punished for blowing up the school by being assigned to work at a beachside food stall. Arin admitted it was Arata's fault, since she saw him as her husband, but Arata argued she was just as responsible. In the end, Arin said it was just husband and wife teamwork. Lilith reminded them that they were absolutely forbidden from doing any more experiments that could destroy the school. Arata got that working was part of their punishment, but he still wondered why they had to do it on a remote southern island. Lilith explained that the headmaster had planned the trip ahead of time. Plus, since the school was unusable anyway, he thought this would be a good opportunity. At that moment, the headmaster was actually back at the school, fixing the mess himself. Arata was surprised. He did not expect the headmaster to be that capable. Just then, Selena and Leffy showed up. Leffy pointed out that even if the headmaster did not look like much, he was actually one of the top 5 mages in the world. Arata complimented their swimsuits, and Leffy said they were designed to draw attention to flat-chested girls. Selena quickly insisted she was not flat, but Leffy argued flat-chested girls were great and could definitely steal the spotlight. Out of nowhere, Arata said he liked all kinds of chests as long as they belonged to beautiful girls. Then Selena suddenly yanked down Lilith's bikini top, flashing her chest at Arata and leaving her completely mortified. Arata gave her a perfect score, 100 points. Selena was stunned that Lilith had even worn a bikini, and Leffy accused her of trying to seduce Arata. Arata started daydreaming about Lilith asking him to rub sunscreen on her, and in the heat of the moment, he blurted out a marriage proposal. Watching from the side, Arin asked if he was trying to build a harem. Lilith shut him down right away and told him to stop saying ridiculous things. Before Arata could say anything else, he saw something even more amazing than swimsuits, but Lilith quickly pointed her magic gun at him to shut him up before things got out of hand. Earlier, Mira had ordered Akio to eliminate Arata. Lilith had tried to stop her, and Arin wanted to help too, but she suddenly found herself unable to move. Akio did not hesitate. She said not to take it personally, it was just her duty to eliminate evil. She landed a powerful kick on Arata, and Mira thanked her. Akio thought the job was done. Then Arin noticed that Arata's magic had vanished completely. Mira told Akio it was time to return, since the mission seemed complete. But right then, a new destructive phenomenon started to stir. Akio asked what was going on. Wasn't Arata supposed to be the source of all this? Mira said calmly that there was a simple explanation. Meanwhile, Arata found himself in a blank, silent space. The only sound he could hear was a violin playing in the distance. He followed it and came across a door, which led to a girl's bedroom. There, a girl playing the violin greeted him. Her name was Yui. She called him Big Brother, saying he felt like someone older than her. Arata asked if this was her world, though he doubted it was heaven. Yui explained that his body had been completely destroyed after Akio's attack. At the last second, she had pulled him into her world. Outside, though, things had fallen into chaos. She showed him what was happening through a drawer that acted like a window into reality. If things continued the way they were going, the entire school would be destroyed. Back in the real world, people around the school began turning to dust one by one. Those with weaker magic were being pulled in first. Selena was confused by how calm Leffy looked, but in truth, Leffy was absolutely terrified. Lilith, Arin, Akio, and Mira were working together, using their magic to protect everyone they could. But Mira started to wonder if Arata was more trouble than he was worth. It felt like he had dragged all of them into this mess. Meanwhile, Arata told Yui he had to go back. He had to stop what was happening. Yui asked if he even knew how to stop it. Arata admitted he did not, but since he was the one who caused it, he felt responsible for ending it. Yui admired his determination. Arata said he did not want to drag anyone else into the chaos. That was when Yui told him he could take control of his magic by choosing a thema and channeling magic through it. She explained that to become a real mage, he had to research and pick a thema, because that was where everything began and ended. Superbia, Invidia, Ira, Acedia, Avaricia, Eula, and Luxuria, the 7 deadly sins. Each one represented an archive where different themas could be found and studied. According to Yui, that was the shortcut he needed to gain full control of his magic. That was when Arata remembered Mira and mentioned Superbia. Yui confirmed that Superbia was the archive Mira's magic came from. She also explained that Mira's thema was Justitia, which represented justice. Hearing that, Arata started to get a better idea of how his own magic might work. If Mira's thema was justice, then maybe his was the opposite. He thanked Yui. and said he had to go back to the school and set things right. If he didn't, even Yui's world might be in danger. He said he could handle it and promised to show her, then asked her to send him back. A moment later, Arata reappeared inside Mira's protective barrier, right in front of Lilith and the others. He told them that if he could stop the destructive phenomenon, then everything would be fine. Mira still was not convinced and got ready to attack again, but Akio stopped her and said they should wait and see. If Arata failed, they could take care of it then. Arata quickly turned to his grimoire and chose rules as his thinema. The grimoire responded, confirming his choice. The heart, the existence, and the soul led to Impel, which belonged to the Superbia Archive. The Astal manuscript, Arata's grimoire, officially declared its contract with him. Without wasting any time, Arata activated his Thema and entered Magus mode. With that power, he and the grimoire could take control of all the magic in the area and erase it. He shouted for all the surrounding magic to vanish, and just like that, the destructive phenomenon stopped completely. But then something unexpected happened. Lilith, Erin, and Akio's clothes vanished. Only Arata and Mira were still dressed. Lilith screamed and scrambled to cover herself. Akio asked why Mira's clothes were still intact, and Mira explained that her crystal sphere had reflected the effect. She sighed and said the Demon Lord candidate was way too much trouble, and she never wanted to deal with that again. Then even Arata's clothes disappeared, making Lilith scream again in shock. Later, Arata proudly told Selena that he had saved everyone with his amazing new technique. Selena asked what kind of technique he meant. Erin jumped in and said that Arata's new power had erased the destruction entirely. Arata told them it was called Magus mode. Selena said this was Arata's official debut as a mage. But Lilith cut in, warning him not to show that off to just anyone. Out of nowhere, Leify commented that Lilith should not be flashing her chest to people either. Then, true to form, Leify grabbed Lilith's chest and casually said she was impressed, talking about its elasticity, softness, and shape. Lilith told her to stop, but Leify seemed to be enjoying herself. Not long after that, Lilith pulled out her weapon and fired it. Arata and Selena quickly ran away. While they were alone, Arata asked if Selena really wanted to see him. She replied that what she wanted to see was what was under his underwear, but then instantly took it back. She just wanted to see him in Magus mode. Suddenly, Arata's magic book spoke up and said Selena was good at teasing him. Selena asked if it was really a magic book, and it answered by reminding her that the last time they met, she had been holding in her pee. Embarrassed, Selena told Arata to show her his magical powers. Since no one else was around, Arata activated Magus mode. Selena was amazed. Then, without warning, she used her magic to bind him using a photo. Her magic, Logos art, had the power to restrain even future Sorcerer Kings. Arata's magic book told him to show Selena his ultimate technique. In a flash, Arata broke out of the spell and made Selena's clothes disappear. Selena let out a loud scream, which reached all the way to Mira and Akio, who were swimming nearby. Akio asked Mira if she was still sure nothing was going on, and Mira replied that Arata really did seem like a complete pervert. Akio agreed, saying that a magic spell that people might actually be terrifying. Selena told Leify what had happened, and Leify said Arata sounded pretty interesting. While they were walking down the hallway, they suddenly heard voices coming from near Lilith's room. It was Arata and Lilith. Leify and Selena immediately assumed they were up to something naughty. But as soon as they made a sound, Lilith opened the door and punched both of them. Turns out, nothing was going on. Arata was just talking to her about how his magic might be able to bring Hijiri back home. Arata and the others were on their way to the mixed bath. Lilith explained that the reason Arata wanted to become a mage was to save his missing cousin, Hijiri, who had disappeared during the destruction phenomenon. Selena asked if there was any other way to bring her back. Lilith said that the headmaster had told her Arata needed to meet with the Trinity Seven. Arata remembered the headmaster saying the Trinity Seven had to become his allies. He already knew that Lilith, Erin, Leify, Mira, and Akio were part of the Trinity Seven, which made 5. So he asked who the other 2 were. Selena told him one of them was a girl named Yui, but she hardly ever came to school. Arata said he had already met Yui, which surprised Selena. She explained that Yui was a special sorcerer that could only talk to her in dreams. The last girl had disappeared before Arata even got to the magic school, and no one knew where she was now. Arata said there was no way he could meet all of them right away, and Leify told him to just focus on the ones he could reach for now. When they got into the bath, the girls started soaking while Arata watched from the side. He wondered out loud why they were still wearing clothes, since technically they did not need them in the bath. Mira and Akio immediately called him a disgusting pervert. Akio even warned that if she ever saw him naked again, she would punch him. Mira got out of the bath saying she could not relax in the same place as Arata. Arata figured that was just how Mira was. As the conversation went on, Arata told the Trinity's 7 members that he wanted to build real relationships with all of them. Leffy said that Akio was crazy strong and Mira was basically immune to any kind of magic. Arata remembered how Mira had reflected his spell before, so that checked out. Selena teased that maybe Arata should try learning how to control that clothes erasing spell and use it on just one person. She said it would be more fun that way. Erin clarified that the spell was not about strong people, it was a type of magic that erased other magic. Selena then joked that since Arata was a guy, why did he not just make something simple like a gun or a sword? Arata thought that sounded like a good idea, so he asked Lilith to give him her gun. Lilith said she could not because the weapon had to be summoned with magic. Arata asked if he could just copy it and use the same kind of magic. Lilith explained that her Thema and Archive were completely different from his. Selena suggested that maybe all of them should show Arata how their magic worked. Laffy pointed out that Arata was still just a level 1 candidate for Magic King. Arata admitted that his Thema only awakened after he saw Mira's. He then asked Lilith to show him her magic. Lilith refused, saying magic was not something you just flash in front of people for no reason. Arata begged her to at least show a little, just for a moment. Lilith still said no and told him he needed to study magic properly first. Arata kept pushing, saying he would do anything to bring Hijiri back, so she had to help him in any way she could. Hearing that, Lilith finally gave in a little and said that Arata owed her big time. He immediately hugged her, but she smacked him right away. After that, Lilith activated her magic. Her style was called Outer Alchemic, basically alchemy-based magic. Arata quickly told his magic book to transform into a gun, and somehow, it actually worked. Arata was thrilled. Lilith could not believe he had pulled it off so easily, since that kind of thing should have been impossible. The grimoire explained that it had copied Lilith's magic and rewritten it into a version Arata could use. They both wondered if Arata's magic could adapt and use spells from other mages. Arata said that, apparently, it could. Arata didn't expect that he actually had the ability to copy magic. He thought maybe he could be the kind of main character who could use every kind of spell out there. But according to Lilith, that was impossible. Arata could only copy the surface of a spell. He needed to understand the process behind it to really make it work. Both Arata and Lilith were shocked when they opened the classroom door and found all the students seemingly fast asleep. Arata tried to wake up Selena, but nothing worked. He started wondering if maybe everyone was trying to boycott Lilith's lesson. He half-jokingly suggested that maybe Lilith needed to improve her teaching skills, especially since this was what happened when she ignored her responsibilities as a teacher. Lilith defended herself, saying she never slacked off like that. Suddenly, Leffy showed up and said something else was going on. Arata, Lilith, Leffy, Mira, and Akio all headed to the headmaster's office to figure out what was really happening. The headmaster explained that this was a breakdown phenomenon, and students whose magic wasn't strong enough had fallen unconscious because of it. Oddly enough, the headmaster then made a comment about being tempted to tease the sleeping girls. Arata, surprisingly, went along with the mood. But before it went any further, Lilith immediately smacked both of them and told them to stop fooling around. Mira told Akio they needed to eliminate the breakdown phenomenon as soon as possible. The headmaster asked Mira to work together with the others, but she refused, insisting that she and Akio were more than capable of handling it on their own. Before leaving the room, Mira shot Arata a cold, judgmental look. Arata, half-jokingly, wondered aloud if maybe Mira had a crush on him. Erin quickly shut that down, saying Arata was way too full of himself. Arata told Erin she should try being a little more open, to which she dryly replied, "Like letting you see me naked again." Lilith then turned to the headmaster and asked if the breakdown phenomenon was really what he said it was. He confirmed that powerful magic was leaking from beneath the school. Leffy guessed that the magic could be coming from Yui. Arata asked if Yui was the girl with the second sexiest body after Lilith. The headmaster confirmed it. He explained that Yui lived in a prison underneath the school and her magic was going wild, which caused this whole situation. That was the first time Arata learned that the school even had an underground prison. Lilith, Arata, Leffy, and Erin made their way through a massive underground labyrinth to find Yui. Leffy explained that Yui was a mage who lived on the other side of this world, basically, the dream world. That was her thema, and that's why she was sealed away. She used Cardinal class magic, making her the second most powerful mage after the headmaster. According to Erin, Yui's immense power had caused her world to fall into a deep sleep. When Arata asked what that meant, Leafy said simply that the world Yui used to live in was destroyed. Lilith suspected that Yui might have been influenced by the Demon Lord candidate because she had met Arata. Arata realized there was a chance this whole phenomenon was partly his fault. Lilith reassured him that they could still fix it. Leafy encouraged them to find Yui before Mira and Akio did. Arata asked why it was so urgent. Arin explained that one of the duties of Grimoire security was to reformat breakdown phenomena and eliminate anything corrupted by them. So if Mira and Akio reached Yui first, they would likely destroy her. Understanding the stakes, Arata agreed they had to find Yui quickly. Since the place was dangerous, they needed to switch into Magus mode. Leafy noticed that something, or someone, seemed to be waiting for them. It turned out to be demons. Demons often show up during breakdown phenomena or in places with magical interference. They're creatures from another world that feed on magic, and those who wield it. Arata mentioned that the gun he created before might come in handy, but he didn't know how to summon it again. He asked his grimoire if it could transform into the same gun, but the book replied by asking him for the composition details. Arata was confused since the last time the book had done it easily. Meanwhile, Arin put up a barrier to keep the demons at bay. Arata kept trying to summon the gun he wanted. It did appear, but in a completely different form. He tried to use it, but it didn't work. Frustrated, he tossed it to the ground, and unexpectedly, it ended up canceling out Arin and Lilith's magic instead. In an instant, Arin's barrier vanished and the demons began closing in on them. Arata suddenly realized that what he had done had actually disabled Lilith and Arin's Magus mode. Seeing how dangerous things had gotten, Leafy told Arata to stay behind her while she handled the demons using her ninja skills. The demons were defeated in a flash. Leafy then told everyone to run from the area immediately. Arata was honestly surprised by how incredible Leafy's ninja powers were. According to Lilith, Leafy's abilities were top tier, and she might even be one of the 5 strongest mages. Arata then asked if all the Trinity 7 were like that. Arin replied that Leafy was a bit different. Arata figured maybe Yui was someone special to Leafy. After running for quite a while, they made their way down the staircase and things got darker. Suddenly, Lilith thought Arata was touching her body. Arata also felt something soft, like Lilith's chest. Lilith asked where he was putting his hand, but Arata insisted it wasn't him because he also felt something crawling inside his clothes. Without hesitation, Arin activated her magic by executing a macro from her spellbook, Ragna Yggdrasil. She used her Chaazic rune to eliminate the strange creatures that had clung to their bodies. Arata immediately asked his own grimoire to copy the spell Arin had just used, but unfortunately, the book responded that it hadn't reached the required level, so it was impossible to replicate it yet. Arata was caught off guard by that. Lilith explained that there were certain conditions that needed to be met to use someone else's magic. Leafy mentioned that the time Arata had managed to copy Lilith's spell was probably just a coincidence. Arata wondered if it had something to do with seeing her chest, but Arin reminded him that he had already seen hers too. Lilith asked Arata to stop mentioning chest over and over, especially in a place like that. Arata commented on how useful Arin's magic was, and Arin explained that she had written it into her spellbook and registered it as a macro. She also set up a defensive chant to make sure those creatures wouldn't get to Arata again. Arata thanked her and Arin smiled in response. Soon, more demons appeared and Lilith immediately started shooting at them. She reminded Arata that he really needed to learn how to use macros and chants. Arin said that if he wrote a macro in his spellbook and recited the chant properly, the registered spell would activate. Just as the demons closed in on Arata, Leafy stepped in and wiped them out effortlessly. She told Arata that she'd really appreciate it if he could master his magic quickly. To save Yubi, they needed Arata's unique power, one that could erase destructive phenomena. Leafy said her Thimo was hopes, so she had high expectations for Arata as a future Demon Lord candidate. By that point, they had reached the lowest level of the area. Arata was surprised that they made it there so easily. Lilith pointed out that weak shadows wouldn't be able to beat Leafy even if they attacked all at once, but Arin warned that the real threats were Mira and Akio. Right then, Mira and Akio appeared before them, walking through a wall they had just smashed down. Akio explained that they got there by breaking through the floor and then destroying every wall in a straight line. Mira quickly told Akio they had to go, since Yui was just ahead. Arata asked if they were planning to kill Yui. Mira said Yui was the cause of the destructive phenomenon, but Arata thought they were jumping to conclusions. Mira responded that she wouldn't mind starting with Arata, especially since his magic had no effect on her. Leafy challenged Akio and Akio was more than happy to accept. Mira asked Akio not to waste time. If Lilith and Leifi got in their way, they'd never get anywhere. Akio agreed and promised to wrap things up quickly. Just as Leifi was about to activate her magic, she told Arata and the others to go ahead, because only Arata had the power to save Yui. Leifi activated her magic connected to the NVIDIA archive by chanting Shinpu Shorai. In just a moment, she summoned a massive whirlwind. Arata lost his balance and fell to his knees right in front of Mira. Accidentally, he caught a glimpse of Mira's bunny print underwear. Mira, completely shocked and embarrassed, immediately told Akio to finish the fight, and without hesitation, Akio unleashed a powerful blow. Arata, Lilith, and Erin rushed straight to Yui's room. As soon as Lilith opened the door, poisonous gas began pouring out of it. Inside, a giant dragon loomed, and Yui looked completely different from how Arata had seen her before. According to Erin, what Arata saw earlier was Yui's ideal form. When the dragon's eyes opened, its magic resonated with Arata's. The dragon blasted its power straight at him, but Erin jumped in to shield him. Unfortunately, her barrier couldn't hold up against the dragon's strength. Lilith quickly switched her weapon to Buster mode and fired at the dragon. Arata asked if they had taken it down, but Lilith told him the attack wasn't strong enough. The dragon's magic was far too powerful. Just then, Mira and Akio showed up. Mira explained that the creature was Code D and its illusion had fully materialized. Seeing them arrive, Arata asked where Leifi was. Lilith even started to worry that something might have happened to her. Suddenly, Leifi appeared right behind Lilith and, out of nowhere, squeezed her chest, causing Lilith to scream loudly. Erin asked Akio if they should consider a ceasefire, but Akio thought they couldn't afford to take it lightly. That dragon wasn't just any illusion, it was the strongest kind, something like a demon. Mira wondered if Akio was planning to take it on alone, but Akio still wanted to give it a try. Leifi helped Arata up and told him to take a deep breath and refocus on his grimoire. Not long after, he started to recover, and the toxic gas that had been coming from his body began to fade. Watching Lilith and the others teaming up to take down the dragon, Leifi encouraged Arata to join them in the fight. She reminded him that magic battles could erase destructive phenomena, and if he truly wanted to find Hijiri, he would eventually have to face battles like this. Arata asked Leifi how to summon his gun, saying he wanted to use it. Leifi agreed, saying it was the best way to help Yui. Arata called her kind, but Leifi said she didn't expect anything from anyone. Yui had never really made friends, but the two of them had a lot in common. According to Leifi, Arata's Thema magic was the furthest thing from who he was. And because she didn't expect anything from others, she had ended up wishing for everything. Arata understood. Magic was about doing the things that seemed most impossible or unreasonable. He wanted to get everything under control and stop the destructive phenomenon. Leifi asked Lilith to give Arata a proper magic lesson. Lilith started explaining. She told Arata he needed to choose his materia first. His grimoire said the incantation could be the same as what Lilith used, and that part didn't matter much, but Arata had to be careful. He had a habit of underestimating magic. Using too much of it without thinking could end up swallowing him one day. Lilith explained that alchemy is bound by material exchange and that it uses either magic or a person's soul as its cost. So if it's used too much, the price could go beyond what Arata can handle. His grimoire warned that if he kept pushing his magic, it might overwhelm him, and Arata could turn into a demon. The book even mentioned that if his magic spiraled out of control, he might end up just like the demons he had faced before. And since Arata was a candidate for Demon Lord, he could potentially become an even greater threat, maybe even worse than the dragon. Still, Arata agreed to go through with it. Leifi told him to imagine the process, his grimoire turning into a gun, complete with a grip, barrel, and trigger. She gently kissed his finger as a way of placing her magic there. Then she told Arata to picture himself firing a magical bullet straight from the tip of that finger. Arata followed Leifi's instructions and started visualizing the weapon in his hand. After asking his grimoire to make it real, the book quickly activated the spell. In no time, it had transformed into a gun in his hand. With no hesitation, he ran straight toward the dragon. Mira could feel a powerful surge of magic radiating from him. Arata aimed the gun and fired at the dragon. It only took one shot. The dragon vanished instantly. Yui regained consciousness and greeted Leifi. Arata asked if she was okay. Yui smiled and rushed over and hugged him tightly. At that moment, she wasn't wearing anything, but she was overjoyed that Arata had saved her. Without any hesitation, Yui confessed that she loved him. Leifi smiled to herself. Watching the potential Demon Lord wipe out Code D in a single shot, especially while living side by side with her hopes, made things a lot more interesting for her. One morning when Arata woke up, he suddenly found Yui and Erin sleeping completely unclothed on either side of him. Lilith came into his room to wake him up so he wouldn't be late for class, but she was completely shocked to find Arata in bed with both girls. Instead of reacting with embarrassment, Arata cheekily invited Lilith to join them. Later that day during PE class, Yui walked up to Arata and pressed her body close to his. With a playful smile, she called him a pervert. Seeing how close Arata was getting to Yui, Erin immediately hugged him too, asking if he was happy, to which Arata simply nodded. Yui then joked that Arata shouldn't worry. She would be fine even if she was just his second wife. Arata still couldn't wrap his head around the fact that their magic academy actually had physical education classes. He was completely distracted watching Lilith run, his eyes fixed on the way her chest moved. Even Erin noticed and commented that Lilith, who was usually shy, actually looked pretty good with her figure. Out of nowhere, Mira and Akio showed up behind Arata, catching him off guard. Mira immediately told Akio to get rid of Arata, calling him sinful trash. Just as Akio was getting ready to strike, Arata begged her not to go through with it. Mira warned Yui that while she might have escaped trouble this time, both she and Arata were still dangerous. If anything went wrong, Mira and Akio wouldn't hesitate to eliminate them in the name of grimoire security. Yui nodded in understanding. Selena, who had been watching from a distance, called it a battle between the most powerful mages of the Trinity Seven over who would get to claim Arata. Lilith showed up and reminded everyone that endurance training was important for mages. She asked what was going on, and Arata casually replied that the girls were planning to fight over him. Just then, Liffy appeared, saying that she understood and that it would be best to settle things right there. Kaikio agreed, especially since someone had irritated her earlier. Laffy activated her magic by linking to the archive of Nvidia and executed her Thema. Akio responded by linking to the archive of Gula to activate hers. Not wanting to be left out, Erin declared that she also had something to prove as she wanted to become Arata's wife. She activated her magic by linking to the archive of Ira and launched her Thema as well. Lilith tried to stop them from using their magic on the spot, but Selena, ever the excited photographer, quickly began snapping shots of the moment. She captured Laffy in her shamanic spell form, Akio in her ancient mode, and Erin casting her Childic rune. She was amazed that she could photograph them in their Magus forms and joked with Lilith, asking if she wasn't going to join in too. After all, Arata was about to be taken from her. Caught off guard, Lilith blushed and stammered that she had no romantic involvement with Arata. Erin then pointed out that Arata liked her because of how her chest bounced when she ran. Embarrassed, Lilith quickly covered herself. Yui, refusing to stay quiet after hearing that the others were fighting over Arata, activated her own magic by linking to the archive of Avaricia. Selena could hardly contain her excitement. No one at the academy had ever seen Yui's Magus form before, and now she could even see her Arc Symphony clearly. Yui looked stunning. Lilith explained that Yui's magic belonged to the Cardinal class. With a cry of Starry Night Serenade, Yui pulled everyone into her world. Inside this dream world, Arata found himself entering Yui's room. She now looked like the mature version of herself, the same one he first met. Yui told him that this was her dream form. Arata admitted that while he liked her adult form, he also liked the other side of her, describing it as a charming blend of youth and boldness. He asked where everyone else was, and Yui explained that she had put them into a dream state, allowing them to sleep peacefully. However, Mira wasn't affected like the others. She had used her Gehenna scope at the last moment to reflect the spell. Surprised, Yui realized Mira had the power to bounce back any magic aimed at her. Arata suddenly remembered that Mira had once managed to make his clothes disappear using that same ability. Mira coldly replied that all she did was reflect his gross spell, and told him she found him absolutely disgusting. She made it clear that she would never forgive him, and turned and disappeared without another word. Arata said that Mira was cute, but also a little terrifying. Yui asked if Arata was interested in Mira too. Arata replied that it was only natural for a guy to want to get close to a cute girl, which made Yui laugh and say that Arata was really honest. As Yui leaned in to kiss him, Arata gently stopped her. He told her that if she really wanted to do something like that, they should at least get to know each other better first. Then he asked if she was friends with Laffy. Arata figured that since Yui didn't really understand what friendship meant and Laffy couldn't bring herself to expect anything from others, then Laffy's Thema must be hope, while Yui's might be friendship. Yui said he was right, but admitted that she had been asleep and alone all this time. Without the shock from Arata's magic, she would have never woken up, so in a way she was glad she didn't have anyone. That's when Arata finally understood. His magic had cancelled out Yui's magic and woke her up. Erin gently patted Yui on the head and asked her to be friends. Arata added that he would help Yui study her Thema. Yui got super excited about becoming friends with Erin. Then she looked at Arata and asked if being friends meant he could do anything he wanted with her now. Just as Arata was about to respond or maybe act on it, Lilith suddenly shouted, stopping him in his tracks. Arata was surprised that even in a dream, Lilith still managed to interrupt him. Yui giggled and said Lilith was seriously dedicated. Arata suggested that Yui return everyone to the real world. Instead, Yui suddenly kissed Arata and thanked him for saving her. In an instant, everyone returned to the real world, but only Arata and Yui were still unconscious. Eren, Lilith, and Leify waited by their side for them to wake up. With Yui now part of the group that made 6 members of the Trinity 7, but they still had no idea where the 7th member was. Selena showed up and mentioned that since Arata had managed to save Yui, maybe he could also find the final member. Meanwhile, Mira was taking a bath. Akio asked why she seemed so deep in thought. When Akio touched her, Mira was startled and slipped, but Akio quickly apologized. The two of them soaked together in the hot springs. Akio could tell Mira was still feeling down and asked again what was bothering her, but Mira didn't feel like talking about it at first. Akio moved closer and reminded her that she didn't always have to act like the captain of Grimoire security. Sometimes it was okay to just be herself. Mira eventually opened up. Lately, she'd seen more and more signs of breakdowns, people losing control of their magic and turning into demons. These incidents were starting to shake her up. She wondered if any of this was connected to Arata, the candidate for Demon Lord. Mira felt like it was her duty to purify and destroy those powerful beings who had fallen. But Akio told her not to carry all that weight alone. She said those corrupted beings were her enemies too, and she'd take care of them. Mira just needed to keep leading her. Akio promised she'd always be by her side. Hearing that made Mira smile. Later that night, a sudden explosion shattered one of the school's glass windows. The next morning, students were shocked to find shards of glass scattered all over the floor. Arata asked Lilith what had happened. Lilith guessed that someone had broken into the school during the night. Mira suddenly accused Arata of being behind it, since there were faint traces of magical breakdown at the scene. Arata insisted he didn't do anything. Lilith said that if there were traces of that kind of magic, the most likely suspects were Arata and Yui. Arata didn't get how she came to that conclusion. Then Yui showed up and mentioned that there were traces of some powerful magic lingering. Lilith noticed how close Yui's face was to Arata's and reminded her to give him some space. But instead of backing off, Yui kissed Arata right in front of her. Lilith was completely shocked to see a girl like Yui do something like that in public. Yui laughed and said Lilith was cute when she got flustered. Arata asked if this whole incident had been Yui's doing. But Yui shook her head. She said it wasn't her fault, and besides, if her magic ever did go out of control, the whole school would have turned into a dungeon by now. Mira was pretty sure the magic came from either Arata or Yui. It felt just like the kind of magic she and Lilith had sensed back in the library, and Lilith agreed. Arata later told Eren about it and mentioned how serious Lilith and Mira had seemed when they were talking about that library magic. Yui, on the other hand, said she had no idea what they were talking about. According to Eren, it made sense. Yui had been asleep the whole time. Out of nowhere, Leify showed up and said there was a ghost in that place. Yui got scared and immediately clung to Arata. Leify asked if Arata was scared of ghosts, but Arata said ghosts didn't seem all that different from the demons or dragons they had faced. Yui disagreed. She thought demons were kind of cute, while ghosts were just plain scary. Still holding onto Arata, Yui appeared visibly shaken, though Arata did not seem particularly bothered. Eren then remarked that Arata tended to be easily influenced by appearances. Arata dismissed the comment and asked what the concern was if the ghosts had not harmed anyone. That was when Leify explained that there had already been a victim. Eren shared that on a stormy day with heavy rain, most students had returned to their rooms after school to study alone. However, a pair of twins decided to remain in the school building to continue their studies overnight. Then something strange occurred. Windows suddenly shattered, and several books fell onto them. One of the twins realized that her older sister had disappeared. Despite a thorough search, she was never found. She remained missing to this day. The incident had taken place about 6 months before Arata arrived at the school. Arata asked how that incident was related to the ghost Leify mentioned. Leify said that recently during rainy days, some students had reported sightings of the missing girl on campus. Believing it was worth investigating, Arata invited the others to accompany him to the location where the event occurred. When they reached the library, they encountered Mira and Lilith. Arata explained that he wanted to understand what had happened. Mira warned him not to interfere if he was not serious about helping. Arata responded that if a dangerous phenomenon was occurring, it would be better for him to be present. At the time, Akio was still asleep, so he felt relatively safe. Mira advised him not to get in the way. Arata asked if there had been any clues left behind. Just then, Erin noticed Selena nearby and asked if she had come to investigate the matter. Before Selena could reply, a sudden force swept through the area and transported them elsewhere. In an instant, the entire room had shifted. Mira identified their new location as the Eternal Library, meaning someone had moved them into it directly. Akio woke up, sensing that something was happening, and reminded everyone to stay together. Arata accidentally held onto Selena, who asked him to let go. He apologized and stepped away. Suddenly, an unexpected attack flew toward Arata. Selena moved quickly and pushed him aside. Then, Arata saw a girl who resembled Selena, although she wore a different outfit. The girl asked if he was the Demon Lord candidate. Her name was Liselot, though she was commonly called Lise. Both Lilith and Mira immediately recognized her. Lise greeted them and swiftly attempted to take their magic. Fortunately, Lefi intervened just in time to stop her. Lise acknowledged both Lefi and Akio. Akio guessed that Lise had become a dark mage. Selena checked on Arata, and he asked what was happening. Selena then revealed that Lise was her twin sister. Arata asked if the person everyone believed to be a ghost was actually Lise. Lise smiled at the mention of the rumor. Lilith explained that Lise had conducted a forbidden experiment in an attempt to connect herself to the Eternal Library. Mira added that Lisa used to serve as vice captain of Grimoire security, and Selena noted that she was also one of the Trinity Seven from Acedia. Lisa laughed and said it was interesting that so many powerful mages had gathered around the future Demon Lord. She saw it as an opportunity to absorb their magic. She then stepped away, saying she needed to continue studying magic through her grimoire. She admitted that her involvement with Grimoire security had only been a way to gain access to knowledge about destructive phenomena. When Lisa turned her attention to Arata, Selena acted quickly and protected him. Lisa acknowledged that Selena had discovered her intentions. Selena, who could also use Logo's art, had calculated exactly where Lise would appear. Lisa praised her sister and asked whether she had been improving her magic. Lilith and the others agreed that Lise had crossed the line and decided to work together to stop her. In the middle of everything, Arata made a casual comment about her appearance. Erin asked if he often made such observations, and Arata replied that he respected beauty in general. Lisa realized that Arata had only recently started learning magic. Arata said that when people called something wrong or sinful, he did not quite understand what they meant. Lisa responded that magic was an expression of human potential, and labeling it as wrong made no sense to her. She also pointed out that taking power from a Demon Lord candidate was, in a sense, an act of rebellion. Without warning, Lisa appeared behind Selena and placed a mark on her neck to drain her energy. Mira immediately sensed a surge in Lisa's magical power. Lisa then activated a destructive phenomenon and revealed that a sealed Demon Lord elemental was hidden within the Eternal Library, and she intended to claim it. Lisa bit Selena to drain all of her magic while Selena was still unconscious. Mira noticed a mark at the bite wound. It was the seal of the Demon Lord. She told Lisa that she had become a sinful Demon Lord. According to Lisa, the ultimate goal for any mage is to become a Demon Lord, so it was only natural for mages to aspire to that. What she said made sense, but Lilith believed Lisa should have done more studying and research before taking that step. Unfortunately, Lisa wasn't interested in doing things the hard way. She preferred to skip straight to the finish line, just like Arata. For Lisa, skipping the process and jumping straight to the result was her research. Arata agreed with her, saying shortcuts were the best way to go since he didn't like dealing with complicated stuff either. If there was an easier way to do something, he'd absolutely take it. However, he wasn't okay with stealing a friend's magic. His grimoire asked him if he was sure about going up against Lisa, pointing out that she was way stronger than any opponent he had faced so far. Arata responded confidently, saying the title of candidate for Demon Lord belonged to him and him alone, and he was sure he could beat her. He activated his magic, tapping into the Superbia archive, and instantly executed his thema, transforming his grimoire into a gun. Lisa scanned Arata's magical energy with ease. She said his power was impressive, strong enough to nullify all magic, erase destructive phenomena, and even cancel out Yui's high-level abilities. She also mentioned that based on Selena's research, underestimating Arata would be a big mistake. Apparently, Lisa had stolen research from the mages whose magic she had taken, including Selena. Knowing Arata's capabilities, Lisa asked why he didn't just join her. Lilith immediately urged Arata not to accept anything Lisa offered and begged him not to listen to her at all. Suddenly, Lisa changed her appearance to look like Hijiri. She knew Arata wanted to save Hijiri, the girl who had been swallowed by the breakdown phenomenon. Lisa told him that if he joined her, she could help him rescue Hijiri faster. Arata was shocked that she knew about Hijiri. Lisa kept pushing him to join her if he wanted answers. At that moment, Lefi and Akio rushed in to attack Lisa. but the sheer force of Lise's magic was enough to push them back. Then, out of nowhere, Lise kissed Arata. She felt like she'd have gained something incredible. It was her first kiss with a guy, and she was surprised at how intense it felt. By that point, Arata's power had nearly vanished. Lise laughed triumphantly, proud that she had successfully stolen his magic. The power in her wings grew even stronger, and she praised Arata's incredible magic now flowing inside her. With everyone present, Lise decided to test out the power she had just stolen. With a snap of her fingers, she nullified everyone's magic and caused their clothes to vanish. Only Mira and Leifi were able to block the spell. Mira quickly started scanning Lise's magic and told Leifi to buy her some time. Leifi understood and took the chance seriously. Mira then said she would destroy Lise, and Lise welcomed the challenge. She was eager to prove she was the strongest. Leifi used her ninja speed to launch a surprise attack on Lise's eyes, but Lise teleported to dodge it. She admitted that Leifi's speed hadn't decreased, but she still believed she was the superior one. Leifi acknowledged that Lise had definitely gotten stronger. Most people couldn't dodge her attacks, let alone stay unharmed. Lise then tried to bind Leifi using the magic she had stolen from Selena, but she wasn't able to pull it off completely since she hadn't fully mastered Selena's powers. Eventually, though, she managed to restrain Leifi's left hand. Leifi quickly leaped back, trying to break free from the bindings, and even complimented Lise on how much stronger she had become. But by that time, Lise realized too late that Mira had already finished analyzing her magical signature. Mira immediately froze Lise's Acedia archive. Curious to see how strong she really was, Lise wondered if she could survive Mira's attack. According to Leifi, if Mira's Gehenoscope had no effect on Lise, then she and the others were definitely in trouble. Mira promised to make Lise regret acting arrogant in front of a justice agent. As she invoked the White Universe, Mira began to break down Lise's power. Lise started to panic and quickly teleported away. Leifi asked if that meant they actually defeated Lise, but then she pointed out that it was pretty clear they hadn't been able to beat her. Quietly, Lise tried to steal Mira's crystal orb, but failed. Lise admitted that if she hadn't stolen Arata's magic, she might have been in serious danger. Mira said Lise was always causing them trouble, and Leifi added it was just because Lise was being foolish. Lilith then asked if Arata was doing okay. Arata said he didn't even have the energy to enjoy seeing his friends naked, which surprised Lilith, especially considering his magic had just been stolen. The fact that he could still joke like that meant he was probably fine. Eren reminded them that if they didn't get Selena's magic back, she might die and disappear. Lilith explained that a mage's existence is tied to their magic. If Arata lost his magic, he wouldn't be able to remain in this world. Eren realized that's why Arata had looked like he was about to pass out earlier. Arata then thanked his grimoire. The grimoire advised him to get out of there as soon as possible. Arata asked if Lise was really that dangerous. The grimoire confirmed that she was because of the magic she had stolen from him. With no other choice, Arata stood up. At that moment, Lise appeared and asked if he planned to run away, implying that he didn't care about Hijiri. That made Arata remember the moment Hijiri kissed him before she disappeared. Suddenly, Lise felt something strange. Arata responded, saying of course he cared about Hijiri. But right now, Selena was the one in danger. Lise asked if he seriously thought she'd let him just walk away. Leifi began preparing to strike. Lise calmly said she could see Leifi's movements. But as soon as Lise teleported, Leifi managed to catch up and smash one of her wings. Lise was shocked that Leifi could match her teleportation, calling it unfair. Leifi kept moving around and Lise tried to chase her down and retaliate. But when she launched her attack, she only hit Leifi's clothes, which Leifi had ditched. In a flash, Leifi jumped out and destroyed Lise's other wing. Lise's movement started to slow down as a result. Mira commented that no matter how high Lise's magic level was, if she hadn't mastered it yet, she was no better than a third-rate mage. Leifi hadn't realized that until Mira mentioned it. Realizing her disadvantage, Leifi said she'd invite them back for a rematch once her magic was stable again. Then she vanished. Afterward, Arata and the others returned to the school library. The battle had ended in a draw, but next time, Lise would likely have full control over Arata's stolen magic. Suddenly, Arata thanked Mira for her outfit. Mira hadn't realized her clothes had been torn and became flustered. She then asked Akio to make Arata more useful before Lise came back to challenge them again. During PE class, Mira and Akio told Arata they needed his power to fight Lise. But Arata was too busy staring at Mira and Akio's bodies. He asked what exactly he was supposed to do if he needed to go through magic training. Did that mean climbing a tower or heading into a dungeon? Mira explained they didn't have time for that, so they were going to unlock his hidden potential directly. After all, Arata had the ability to copy other people's magic. Arata said that power didn't work so well with certain spells because of something related to the process. That's why Mira said Akio would be the one to fight Lise. Akio even let Arata copy her spell, Urchin, and told him to get on with it. Arata admitted he still didn't understand how the process worked. Mira told him to figure it out quickly, or he'd die. Akio started showing off her magic power to pressure him. Terrified, Arata tried to dodge her attacks. Meanwhile, Lilith walked over to the room where Selena was sleeping. Erin was still there by her side, and Yui was playing her violin. Yui said she had managed to stop Selena's magic from going out of control. Lilith thanked her, deeply grateful for the help. It turned out Yui had done it for Arata. Erin looked out the window and mentioned that it seemed like Arata was getting beaten up pretty badly by Mira and Akio. Hearing that, Lilith looked a bit concerned, but she tried to play it off. Erin still couldn't believe that Mira and Akio had agreed to give Arata a crash course. Lilith hoped they'd all see the results soon, especially before Lise's powers fully stabilized. Just then, Leify showed up and reminded them they didn't have time to relax. Lilith asked if Leify was really okay. In truth, Leify still couldn't move her arm properly. Meanwhile, Arata was still dodging Akio's attacks. At one point, he got thrown back and accidentally landed right on top of Mira. Without meaning to, his hand ended up on her chest. Arata commented that Mira's chest wasn't too big or too small. It felt just right to him. Before Mira could hit him, Arata admitted he knew he was probably only seconds away from getting seriously hurt, which was exactly why he wanted to say that it was an incredible feeling, and that he was really grateful to her. He apologized and then gave her a squeeze. Mira, completely shocked, screamed and smacked him over the head with her crystal orbs so hard that it left him bleeding. Akio still gave Arata a bit of credit. Even though his magic hadn't fully recovered, he was holding up surprisingly well. Arata was confused. If Akio's magic wasn't fully back yet, how could her attacks still be that powerful? Akio explained that Sakina Mao, the original creator of the ancient spell, could actually use it without magic at all. Mira told Arata not to dodge the next hit, since that wouldn't help with his training. Arata argued that if he didn't dodge, he might die. Akio pointed out that unless he used magic to reinforce his body, he'd never be able to beat Lise. Arata then asked if he was supposed to fight like Leify. Akio laughed and told him no one was expecting him to go that far. A magic battle didn't always have to be that intense. She said Arata's magic was unique. His ability to strip people of their clothes and that weird gun he conjured from his own magic were definitely one of a kind. They went right back into training after that. At the same time, Lilith and the others were talking about Lisa in Selena's room. According to Leify, most mages chose themas that were pretty far from their morals and personal values. Erin said Lise's thema was stagna, freezing. With Lise's personality, Lilith was certain she wouldn't stay quiet for long. Suddenly, the window next to them shattered. That seemed to be a sign that Lise had arrived. Demons began appearing and instantly drained the magic from two girls nearby. In a flash, their clothes disappeared. The headmaster showed up and handed them towels, thanking them for the lovely view they had unintentionally provided. The girls quickly ran off, embarrassed. The headmaster knew that Mira and Akio were busy training Arata, and the rest of the Trinity 7 didn't have much magic left to fight. He told his assistant that the school was in danger, and to him, that made things exciting. The assistant was baffled by how cheerful he was and joked that if Lilith were around, she'd have already slapped him for acting that way. The assistant then left, saying she would go help defend the school. The headmaster commented that if Arata didn't hurry, Lisa, the wicked magic girl, was going to launch her attack. Lisa finally appeared and said she'd love it if the headmaster would be her opponent. The headmaster responded that he was an old man, so he really appreciated if she went easy on him. But since it was the first time a girl ever said that to him, maybe he'd face her in his alternate form. Lisa smiled and said she would take the headmaster's magic and the school itself as souvenirs to prove she had graduated from that place. Without wasting time, she commanded a group of demons to attack him, but the headmaster effortlessly destroyed them. He then grabbed Lisa and calmly told her that the first lesson was simple. When facing a more powerful mage, she needed to have her grimoire ready. Lisa broke free and admitted that while the headmaster was impressive, she couldn't just sit back and wait to see how the fight would play out. She spread her wings wide and shattered the school's window as she flew out. The headmaster sighed, admitting that it would be his responsibility to fix the damage. Lisa quickly cast Selena's magic spell, Ligur Macro. The headmaster instantly recognized it and pointed out the second lesson. If she truly wanted to back someone into a corner, she needed to understand what kind of magic she was dealing with. Without hesitation, he began chanting. Lisa was shocked that he could access a spell so quickly. He explained the third lesson. While some people need to make physical movements to cast spells, others, like him, only need a macro spell. He was one of those people. With just a snap of his fingers, he broke free from her magic. The headmaster continued, saying the fourth lesson was about efficiency. If she could analyze a spell's composition and form, then even a small amount of magic would be enough to cast it effectively. He then gave her a demonstration. Lieselot laughed, admitting it was exciting to go up against a paladin. She also confessed she wanted to take a large part of his research for herself, but the headmaster believed she wasn't ready for that yet. She acknowledged how incredible he was, even though he hadn't even moved to counter her attacks. He only smiled, but that quiet confidence was the true strength of a paladin, a master of magic. Suddenly, Lieselot froze in surprise as she noticed a massive number of giant monsters gathered behind the headmaster. Lise could see a bunch of huge monsters behind the headmaster. It turned out they were magical constructs from his grimoire, the Gate of Solomon. Only those with a high amount of magic could see them, but the headmaster advised against staring too long because even top-tier mages tend to tremble after gazing at it for too long. Lise realized she might be in serious trouble and wasn't sure how to deal with the headmaster. Being cunning as always, Lise tried to distract him in her own sly way by lifting her outfit slightly and asking what he thought about her chest. The headmaster, clearly lacking self-control, got excited and rushed toward her. Lise used that moment to land a powerful kick, sending him flying right out of the school. The headmaster tried to get back up, muttering to himself that Lise's development was impressive, and that it would be interesting if the others matured like that too. He also said that if Lise only knew, every dark mage throughout history has always ended up losing after gaining too much power. Meanwhile, Arata, Akio, and Mira noticed a destructive magical phenomenon happening at school. They suspected Lise had already started her attack. Mira urged Arata to figure out how to use Akio's technique. Without hesitation, Akio kicked Arata. He immediately got the message. It was his job to copy her magic. His grimoire appeared and said it had already completed the process needed to replicate Akio's ancient spell a while ago. Mira couldn't believe it. The grimoire explained that this time it wasn't about transforming into a weapon. There was no other choice left. The book began scanning through its internal systems. A few moments later, it transformed into a girl. She said she hadn't taken on a human form since Hijiri last used her. Meanwhile, Lilith and the others were hanging out in Selena's room. Sensing a massive magical presence, Lilith guessed it was the headmaster, deliberately causing trouble. Aaron also sensed another powerful magical force heading their way. Suddenly, Lise burst through the wall of Selena's room. But right as she entered, her leg got caught in a rope trap and her body was left dangling in midair. It turned out to be one of Leify's hanging traps. Even Lilith hadn't noticed when Leify had set it up. Lise laughed it off, saying it was nothing but a cheap trick. But Lilith noticed something important. Lise's magic seemed to be weak against direct attacks and traps. Lise complimented Lilith on her sharp analysis. Lilith, however, never thought anyone would describe her that way. Lise broke free from the trap and started walking towards Selena, who was still asleep. She intended to bring Selena over to the side of the dark mages, but it looked like that wasn't going to happen. Not long after, Selena woke up and greeted Lise. Lise asked how she was doing. Selena replied that thanks to her, she wasn't feeling well, and she knew Lise wouldn't apologize. Selena understood that Lise was just that kind of person, which is exactly why she proposed a challenge. If Arata could beat Lise, Selena wanted her to stop being a dark mage and come back to school. Lise admitted she couldn't make that kind of promise. She said she had already made up her mind to absorb the magic of all the Trinity's 7 members so she could defeat the headmaster. As Lise was about to attack, a dragon-like monster bit her. Arata revealed that he had successfully taken back his magic. Everyone, including Lilith, was shocked to see him show up. The girl that would transform from the grimoire also arrived in Selena's room. Lilith recognized her. It was the Astel manuscript. It was the first time the girl had met them in that form. She introduced herself as Sora. Sora explained that the configuration for the ancient spell was already complete. She said Arata had placed the spell somewhere on his body and used it, but to activate it, Arata had to turn his resolve into magic. According to Akio, determination is everything in magic. The feelings one channels into their hands will directly shape the power of their attack. If Arata lacks resolve, he could end up seriously hurt. That's how Akio's magic works. Laughing, Akio asked Mira if she could trust Arata with that kind of power. Mira agreed, but only if Arata could truly wield magic from the Gula archive properly. He needed to be able to stand on his own against Lise. Sora chimed in, saying that kind of magic was a better fit to fight Lise. Akio then mentioned the spell she used was called Conception, and she was placing her trust in Arata to use it. She told him to go teach Lise a lesson. As she knocked her hand on Arata's head, he suddenly saw the image of a young nun in his mind. Arata was confused. He had no idea what he had just seen. After handing off her power to Arata, Ikkyo passed out. That's how Arata was able to use her magic. As he stepped forward to launch his attack on Lise, something unexpected happened. Lise's clothes suddenly fell off her body. Shocked by what he saw, Lilith immediately smacked Arata. Lise suspected Arata might have been trying to sneak a peek at her, but he insisted that wasn't his intention at all. Leffy teased that Arata's real goal was probably to see all of the Trinity 7 naked. Arata quickly denied it, but Yui added that he did seem to want something like that. Lise pointed out that Leffy was the only one Arata hadn't seen undressed, which Leffy jokingly said Lilith would take her place. Lilith, of course, refused. Suddenly, Sora interrupted their banter to report that Lise's interference magic had stabilized again. Lise admitted Arata's attack had caught her off guard, but she was ready to track him again and take his magic back. Lilith guessed that Arata had copied Ikkyo's abilities and reclaimed his magic, but Leffy believed Lise was demonstrating high-level magic with elements linked to the Demon Lord. Yui and Arin were worried about Arata, but he reassured them. Everything would work out. Arata summoned his dragon again, ready to take on Lise. Sora advised him to touch Lise's chest using his spell to absorb her Demon Lord element. Arata leaped at her, but Lise dodged easily. His dragon lunged toward her next, but she avoided it using teleportation. Sora kept feeding Arata directions, and Lise noticed that he was working in tandem with Sora. She acknowledged that Arata had become faster at tracking her location, but he still couldn't keep up with her speed. Lise kept teleporting quickly, making it difficult to predict her moves and for Sora to keep up. Suddenly, Lise appeared in front of Arata and landed a direct hit. Strangely, her hand couldn't pierce through Arata's body. Sora explained that Arata had cast an enchantment spell to harden his body, making physical attacks ineffective. Lise realized that no matter how she tried to restrain or strike him, it wouldn't work. Sora was confident Arata could win if he managed to absorb Lise's Demon Lord element. That meant if he could touch her chest, she would lose. Sora even joked that he might end up growing her. Arata said he wasn't going to do something like that, though half-joking, he added he might enjoy the moment first and then take his time. Lise laughed, calling Arata an interesting guy. With a smirk, she seemed to realize she didn't have many options left, so she decided to use a secret technique. Lise activated a spell connected to the Acedia archive. She unleashed a lost Technica from the main archive, convinced that once she used it, Arata wouldn't be able to escape. In an instant, everything around them shifted. It was like they had been transported into a barrier or a different world altogether. Sora said things were looking really bad. The technique was a secret Acedia spell called Ball Pure Last Crest, originally developed by Pythagoras, the mage known as the founder of Logos art. This spell drastically slowed down everything except for the caster herself. In simple terms, it was basically a replica of stopping time. Lise asked if Arata, even without understanding the spell's mechanics, could at least grasp what it was doing. Arata replied that every teenage boy dreams of something like this. Sora understood immediately. It meant Arata could do all kinds of inappropriate things if he wanted. Sora figured that Lise couldn't change anything around her. Arata then asked if that meant she couldn't strip Lilith and the others. Sora even joked that their chests would probably feel as hard as stone if Arata tried to touch them. Seeing that Sora and Arata were still joking around, Lise pointed out how calm they were in a situation like that. Sora asked what they were supposed to do, being stuck in a place like that, since time was under Lise's control. Lise explained that she could even steal a kiss from Arata and take his magic again. Arata said he was honored and asked why they were still able to talk. Apparently, Lise was letting Arata's time continue to flow so she could keep interacting with him. That also meant if Arata tried to do anything to her, she could stop time and do whatever she wanted. Lise said she was going to steal all of Arata's magic, and if she did, he might disappear completely. Hearing that, Arata suddenly remembered the moment when Hijiri vanished right in front of him. But then he started laughing, saying that everything was beginning to feel real now. He even told Lise to go ahead and try it if she really could, because he was always ready to welcome a cute girl. Arata realized what his determination really meant, so he decided to defeat Lise with everything he had. Just before Lise could take his magic, she activated Chrono Calculation to freeze Arata's time. She walked up to him while he stood frozen. Even though she had used up a lot of magic, she was confident she would come out on top. She figured Arata probably had some kind of plan, but at that moment, she got a chance to get her Demon Lord power back. Lise kissed Arata on the lips, but right after that, she felt a sharp pain. Turns out, Arata had placed an ancient spell on his tongue. Sora revealed that the crest on Arata's hand was a decoy, and the real one was hidden on his tongue. Suddenly, Lise collapsed. Arata asked if he had managed to beat her. He had transferred his power from his right hand to his tongue, knowing that Lise would likely try to kiss him. Sora mentioned that Arata's move had made Lise's magic spiral out of control, and it worked incredibly well. She then asked what kind of determination Arata had channeled into that spell. Arata explained that when he received power from Akio, he saw a memory. Akio as a child praying over and over again. He then hugged Lise and told her that the Trinity's 7 members wanted her to come back. He wanted Hijiri to come back too, and that's when he realized something. It was the determination Akio and Selena had entrusted to him, because they didn't want Lise to be stuck in a lonely world all by herself. Lise started crying, saying they were all idiots. She had already left behind the world, her friends, and even her little sister. But now she couldn't leave that world anymore. Sora explained that there was a risk in using the last crest. Pythagoras, who had used that technique before, ended up trapped in a world that moved faster than the speed of light. In other words, Lise was also unable to leave that dimension. Lise admitted that she couldn't move forward or go back. She was stuck there forever. That was the price she had paid for using that kind of magic. Arata then asked her why she did it in the first place. Lise said that a mage does whatever is necessary, and that also applied to Hijiri. Lise kissed Arata and thanked him, saying that if someone had cared for her the way he did, maybe things wouldn't have ended up the way they did. She gently pushed him away and said goodbye, asking him to apologize to Selena and Akio on her behalf. Lise got ready to send Arata back, but he told her that he was going to pull her out of there instead. Lise smiled and said that if they ever met again, she would let him touch her chest without anything in the way. Not long after, Arata returned, but accidentally ended up grabbing Lilith's chest. Lilith immediately shot him. He explained everything that happened to the rest of the group. Akio was surprised that Lise had acted just like her creator. Arata apologized for not being able to bring Lise back with him. Akio asked if Arata had absorbed all the elements of the Demon Lord. Sora revealed that she was the one holding him back because if a mage kept absorbing more power, their magic could spiral out of control again. Selena felt like there wasn't much they could do for Lise at that point. Mira then asked Sora how many logos art processes Arata had managed to acquire. Sora said it was fair to say that he barely had any, which didn't surprise Mira. As the top security officer, Mira ordered Selena to start training Arata to master logos art as quickly as possible so they can bring Lise back from the time-space dimension where she was trapped. In other words, they needed to start training and move fast to get Lise back. Yui commented that Mira was really kind, but Eren quickly called her a tsundere. Mira denied it and insisted that she just needed to punish Arata as soon as possible. Selena asked if that meant they were definitely going after Lise. Arata told her to use her camera to trap Lise in her high-speed light world, and that he would help her when the time came. Hearing this, Selena sincerely thanked him. The principal overheard their conversation and commented that Arata and the Trinity 7 were really growing up. His assistant reported that the school in the West had been completely wiped out. The principal realized that the Dark Mages had finally started making their move. Over the past few days, Arata had been unusually diligent. While he was in the library, he asked Selena about a formula from a book he was using to study magic. Selena explained the first and second steps of the process, which involved drawing a magic circle. At that moment, Lilith was quietly observing them. Later in class, Arata told Leifi that he was having trouble focusing his mind. Leifi suggested he pinch the tips of his fingers with a clothespin to concentrate better, just like focusing on a single point. That's when it clicked for Arata. He finally understood why Leifi had licked her fingers earlier. Leifi then teased him, saying she wouldn't mind licking his fingers too, if he really wanted. Arata laughed it off and said she could save that as a reward for him, if he succeeded. When he was with Eren, Arata asked her about the rune she had created for him. He also asked how Yui managed to restore her own magic. Yui told him the best way was simply to relax. Then, half-jokingly, she asked if he wanted to touch her chest. Arata quickly turned her down, thinking that doing something like that would just make him even more tense. As Arata was leaving class, Lilith suddenly stopped him. She asked what was going on with him lately, noticing how unusually focused he had been. She even suspected that the person in front of her might be a fake Arata. Arata was confused by that, wondering why she would think such a thing. He explained that he wanted to learn everything as quickly as possible so he could save Lise. He also mentioned that it wouldn't be long before he'd be able to copy Logo's art. Sora chimed in, saying that Arata had already completed 2 out of the 3 necessary steps. Lilith was happy to see that Arata was finally taking things more seriously. However, she reminded him, as she had before, that magic was incredibly dangerous. Trying to master so many types of magic in such a short time could cause his magic to spiral out of control. That kind of situation could be extremely risky, especially if multiple things went wrong at once. Arata already knew that if he lost control of his magic, he could turn into a monster. According to Lilith, he might even become something worse than Ko-D Sora, added that she had warned Arata about that many times. Arata understood the risks, but this time he was determined. He didn't want to lose anyone else, especially not to a place he couldn't reach. He also believed that gaining more power might help lead him back to Hijiri. Suddenly, an announcement came through from the school's information center, asking Arata and Lilith to head to the headmaster's office immediately. So Arata, Lilith, and Sora made their way there. Arata wondered why the headmaster had summoned them out of the blue. Sora guessed maybe the headmaster wanted to give him something. As Arata opened the door to the office, he accidentally tripped and fell, right into a view of Mira's underwear. Embarrassed, he asked if she had stopped wearing those bunny print ones. Mira reacted instantly and gave him a good smack. Seeing this unfold, the headmaster burst into laughter, joking that Arata's pervert luck hadn't run out yet. Arata tried to defend himself, saying he hadn't meant to look. But when Sora asked if he'd enjoyed it, Arata admitted that he had, just a little. Mira, annoyed, asked why they were all called there in the first place. That's when the headmaster announced that he wanted Arata to serve as the temporary deputy leader of the enforcement division. Mira immediately objected. She didn't want someone like Arata, a so-called future demon lord and a known flirt, joining her team. But the headmaster insisted, saying Arata had the skills to handle it. Curious, Arata asked what the enforcement division actually did. Akio explained that their job was to go around and deal with rogue mages, essentially to take them down. Arata was thrilled, saying it sounded just like a hero's job, but Mira was quick to say it wasn't that simple. The headmaster also appointed Lilith to join the division. He said he had always been worried that only Akio and Mira were doing the job, especially now that they were being sent to investigate one of the 3 top magic academies that had been completely wiped out just a few days ago. The school in question was the Royal Liber Magic Academy. The headmaster had asked them to depart the day after tomorrow, and he wanted Arata to at least understand everything he needed for the upcoming evaluation. That night, in Arata's room, Lilith told him that she would be his personal tutor. Since she was the one who helped him get into the Magic Academy, she felt responsible as his teacher to look after him. Arata understood and really relied on her. Then Sora asked if that also included naughty lessons. Lilith quickly denied it. Suddenly, Leifi, who had been hanging from the ceiling, commented that she wouldn't just sit by if Lilith was trying to become a flirty kind of teacher. A moment later, Selena popped out from under the blanket, saying this was breaking news. Erin opened the door and said she had heard everything. Yui revealed herself too, mentioning that Lilith seemed to be pretty experienced at toying with guys. Lilith had no idea when Yui even got there. Arata and Sora joined in, teasing Lilith. Lilith insisted that she wasn't doing anything they were accusing her of. She had finally worked up the courage to say it, and now everyone was turning it into something weird. Erin and Yui continued teasing her, asking why she needed to work up courage in the first place. Then Arata asked that if Lilith really wanted to be his personal tutor, could she explain something to him? He wanted to know if the Trinity 7 were elite mages based on the 7 deadly sins. Lilith explained that the Trinity 7 were those who had mastered the magic technique in their archive and completed something called the Last Crest. Leifi's archive was based on envy or invidia. Yui's was greed, avaricia. Erin's was wrath, ira. Selena's was sloth, acedia. Akio's was gluttony, gula. Mira's and Arata's were both pride, superbia. Then Arata asked what Lilith's archive was. Lilith told him he didn't need to know because it wasn't a big deal. But Arata kept pressing, encouraging her to just say it. Lilith tried to dodge the question, but Arata told her he had decided to take studying seriously and asked her again to tell him. Eventually, Lilith mumbled it under her breath. Her archive was lust. Of course, Arata didn't hear her clearly, so she ended up shouting that hers was lust from the archive Luxuria. Selena pointed out how that sounded like something dirty, and Lilith was mortified. Arata told her she didn't need to go that deep in her research, even though, her body was really attractive. Yui and the others teased her again, calling her sneaky, but Lilith denied it. Arata joked that if Lilith became his personal tutor, she might end up giving him exciting lessons in the name of research. Lilith immediately pointed her gun at him and firmly said she would never do anything like that. Her archive had nothing to do with her personality. Leifi chimed in, saying she didn't envy anyone and wasn't expecting anything from anyone. She was good at her job, which was why she became a ninja. Arata then said it was hard to associate Erin with the concept of wrath. To demonstrate, Erin threw a book at Arata, though she did it with a totally flat expression. After that, she apologized, explaining that she was just acting. She asked if that might have damaged her relationship with Arata. Lilith really did have an attractive figure, but she wasn't lustful at all. She admitted that herself and asked Arata to be a bit more respectful. Suddenly, Yui hugged Arata, and Lilith pointed out that it was an inappropriate gesture. Lilith then suggested that Arata start their lessons. She taught Arata a lot about magic, and they both worked hard until late at night. Lilith even fell asleep from exhaustion after teaching Arata, and Arata covered her with a blanket as she slept soundly. Arata then lay down on her bed, and out of nowhere, Sora sat on top of her, saying that Arata had been working really hard. Arata asked why Sora didn't just turn back into her magic book form. Sora replied, saying she was much cuter in her human form. Arata thought that Sora's human form was nice to look at, soft and warm. Sora teased him, calling him perverted as usual. Suddenly, Mira and Akio entered Arata's room. They were both surprised to see Arata and Sora in such a position on the bed. Akio asked if they were doing something, and Arata explained that he was just taking a short break from studying. However, Sora chimed in, saying she was teasing Arata. Akio mentioned that Mira couldn't control herself when she saw things like this, and she asked Sora not to tease Arata too much. Arata, feeling uncomfortable, pointed out that Mira was the one who seemed awkward. Mira replied that it was because Arata was trying to do something inappropriate with Sora. Arata insisted he wasn't doing anything, but Sora teased him again, saying he called her soft and warm. Arata then asked what had brought Mira and Akio to his room so late. Mira admitted that she came to check if Arata was actually studying, and Akio added that she was with her because Mira didn't want to go to a boy's room alone at night. Mira was confused by Akio's statement, and Akio replied that Mira had been thinking a lot about Arata lately and even wasn't wearing kids' underwear anymore. Arata laughed and recalled the time Mira wore bunny-themed underwear. Mira immediately threw a pillow at him, asking him to forget that memory. Arata then asked about the 3 greatest magic schools. Akio explained that those were advanced magic institutions, similar to their own school. One of them was Libert, which had been destroyed during Lisa's attack. Sora added that she had sensed a powerful magical explosion in the west, where several locations had vanished. A sensation reminded her of when Arata was separated from Hijiri. Mira explained that their mission was to investigate the cause of that destruction and stop it, even though the source remained unknown. To get there, they would use the teleportation network, a system that connected magic schools across different dimensions. Major cities and locations with magic academies were all linked through these portals. Arata was excited to learn about the teleportation system. While they were gathered, Sora brought up that earlier, a girl in pajamas had entered Arata's room, trying to have a conversation with him. Akio made a light-hearted remark about Mira, which made her visibly uncomfortable. Wanting to defuse the moment, Arata changed the subject. Just then, Mira was startled by a nearby insect and instinctively grabbed onto Arata in surprise. The sudden commotion woke Lilith, who misinterpreted the situation and immediately responded with her weapon. The following day, Lilith taught Arata in the library. He quickly grasped all the material she presented. That afternoon, Arata and the others visited a hot spring. While there, Lilith invited Arata to a quieter spot to enjoy the scenery. She mentioned it was a good place to relax and recharge both mind and body, which would help him recover his magical energy. Lilith acknowledged that Arata had been working hard, not only in class but also in supporting Yui and Lise. As a gesture of appreciation, she offered him a peaceful moment with a nice view. Arata felt a little flustered and replied that just seeing Lilith smile alongside the scenery was enough. Lilith, a bit shy, responded with a playful gesture. Meanwhile, Lefi, Yui, Selena, Erin, and Sora observed from a distance, enjoying the light moment. Sora, in a teasing mood, tossed a leaf that unintentionally caused a minor mishap involving Lilith. Arata, caught off guard, quickly turned away. Lilith, embarrassed, reacted on instinct and fired a harmless spell in his direction. The next day, Arata and the group met with the principal. They were told they would be sent to an area near the former location of the Lipper School. However, it appeared someone had interfered with the teleportation process. Lilith was concerned they might be thrown into a dimensional rift. Arata asked what they should do, but the principal assured them they would arrive safely despite a malfunction in the teleportation system. Soon after, Arata, Sora, and Mira found themselves in an unfamiliar location. Sora admitted she did not know where they were, but she sensed a kind of magic similar to what had created her own world. Mira awoke and was surprised by what she saw. She said she had been there before. It was the Royal Liber School. Arata asked if that place had not already been destroyed. Suddenly, Hijiri appeared and greeted Arata. Stunned, Arata asked if it was really her. Mira immediately cautioned the girl not to pretend, stating that the magic she sensed was not human. Determined to uncover the truth, Mira prepared to reveal the girl's true form. The girl acknowledged the strength of the Trinity Seven from Biblia Academy and attempted to block Mira's spell. However, her barrier was not strong enough. Sora advised Arata to let Mira handle it and said that if the girl truly was Hijiri, she would step in herself. The girl smiled and disappeared before anyone could confirm her identity. The girl who looked like Hijiri disappeared before Arata could figure out who she really was. He was incredibly curious about her identity. According to Sora, the girl was a fragment of Iliad who had copied Hijiri's memories, took on her appearance and acted as her replacement. Just like Sora, she had been the one cooking for Arata and cleaning his house ever since the real Hijiri vanished. In a way, it felt like Arata had met her for the first time in ages. Mira said she could investigate on her own and asked why Arata had not gone to see his girlfriend. Sora suspected that Mira might have been jealous now that Hijiri was back, but Arata quickly denied it. Arata, Mira, and Sora were walking through the Libra school building. According to reports, the building was supposed to have been destroyed. Arata started to wonder if the world had been reset somehow, since the school looked perfectly intact. It turned out the entire school had been isolated in another dimension. At that moment, they were surrounded by a massive barrier expanding within a rift between parallel dimensions, which meant they had been teleported to a world where only the school existed, trapping them there. Mira had assumed they would run into Lilith or Akio, but Arata told her there was no one else around. However, he turned out to be wrong. They were suddenly attacked by a group of monsters giving off a twisted, impure aura. Mira got ready to fight them by activating her magic through the Superbia archive and initiating her Thema. Unfortunately, before she could even transform into Magus mode, her clothes suddenly vanished. She quickly tried to cover herself with her arms. Arata immediately handed her his coat to cover up. He then asked Sora what had just happened. Sora guessed that the school had sealed off Magus mode transformations, meaning neither Arata nor Mira could fight properly. Since Sora was pure magic, she could still act freely and offered to take down the monsters herself. She told Arata to get Mira out of there. Without hesitation, Arata picked Mira up. He told her she could hit him later, but for now, they have to run. He also promised not to sneak a look at her body. Once they had left, Sora used her magic to obliterate the monsters in an instant. They collapsed right away under her powerful spell. Then the girl with Hijiri's face appeared. She remarked that Sora's magic was just as strong as always. Sora replied that the Iliad fragment was still using the same old tricks. She did not care how powerful the girl's magic was. Sora knew they were inside her world now. Even so, she showed no fear and was ready to fight her. Meanwhile, Arata and Mira reached a large door, but it would not open. Mira figured they might really be stuck there. Arata, struggling to focus, gave Mira his shirt to wear. She had flustered him so much that he could not concentrate. After putting it on, Mira blushed when Arata called her sexy and told him to stop teasing her. Arata suggested they try to figure out what was going on and find a way out of there. He remembered that it might be possible to escape without defeating the barrier's caster, by destroying the barrier's core instead. Mira said that could be one of the possibilities. Arata asked where the core might be located. Mira explained that it could be placed at a central point or it might be spread across multiple locations in a magic circle. Arata told her to rest while he checked the center of the school. There was a chance that doing so would restore Mira's magic and her clothes. Mira was worried about him going alone, but Arata said that if he got attacked by a monster, he would just run away. Even though it was dangerous, he said he would not be able to forgive himself if he did nothing to help. Mira stepped closer and insisted on coming with him. Arata did not know much about the layout of the school and she did not want to owe him too many favors. Arata agreed and told her they would go together. Meanwhile, Sora kept fighting off the monsters. She didn't expect that the girl who looked like Hijiri would use the monsters as shields. Sora even called her an evil witch. She began to suspect that those monsters might actually be the students from that school. The girl with Hijiri's face explained that the students who had turned into monsters no longer had any will of their own. Sora said it looked like she didn't need to hold back anymore, and then unleash her overwhelming magical power. The girl resembling Hijiri praised the way Sora's magic had grown stronger. Sora admitted that Arata's recklessness had made both of them stronger. The girl wasn't surprised after all. Both she and Hijiri had chosen Arata as the candidate to become the Demon Lord. Sora launched a powerful attack aiming at the girl, but things took a turn when she suddenly got trapped inside a black cube. The girl smiled, saying that Hijiri had always told her Sora was easiest to catch after using her strongest technique. Meanwhile, Arata and Hijiri had reached the center of the school, right at the clock tower. According to Mira, the clock tower could easily serve as the core of a magical barrier. The higher the structure, the wider the area it could cover. Arata figured he probably needed to climb to the top of the tower. Just then, a gust of wind blew through, lifting Mira's shirt slightly and making her flustered. Arata commented that Mira clearly wasn't used to this kind of embarrassing situation and promised to be careful not to look. Even in that moment, Arata couldn't resist teasing her, which got on Mira's nerves a bit. He then asked if she wanted him to go up first, but Mira was worried there might be traps waiting for them. In the end, Arata agreed to carry her. As he climbed the stairs of the tower with Mira in his arms, he asked whether the reason she became head of the investigation division was because of her powerful magic. Mira said that was true, but there was more to it. Her thuma was justitia, or justice, and that was why she chose to walk the path of righteousness. Arata wondered out loud if thumas were supposed to reflect the opposite of someone's true self. Then, jokingly, he asked if Mira used to be a delinquent. Mira immediately denied it. Curious, Arata asked what she was like in the past. Mira began to open up. Her friends used to say she was lucky for being cute and having strong magic. They would ask whether her powers were natural or the result of training. Mira admitted she had always done her best to avoid getting too close to people because her magic was so strong. It could spiral out of control at any time. Because of that, she wasn't great at making friends. That changed when Akio invited her to help with her research and said she wanted powerful magic. Akio took Mira by the hand and brought her to all sorts of places under the pretense of conducting magical experiments, helping Mira slowly get used to being in school. One day, one of Mira's crystal orbs exploded and injured her. Akio found her lying there, barely conscious, and immediately carried her. When Mira suddenly woke up in Akio's arms, she was stunned. She apologized, thinking her experiment had failed. Akio guessed that Mira had been conducting it in secret to avoid causing trouble for others. Akio then asked why, with such powerful magic, Mira didn't just use it more confidently. That question stuck with Mira. She started wishing she could be as honest and cool as Akio. That was when she decided to take full responsibility for her own power and become an agent of justice. Suddenly, Mira realized she had told Arata everything. Arata said it was a great story. Mira replied that it was exactly why she couldn't stand sinful guys like him. Arata said he thought Mira had finally gone back to her usual self, and he also admitted that her earlier story was interesting. Still, he only started talking to her to help distract himself from everything else going on. Mira realized that and immediately tightened her grip around Arata's neck, calling him a shameless sinner of a man. Arata was almost out of breath from that, so Mira told him to stop worrying about her. Their priority at that moment was figuring out how to get out of that place. They made it to the top, and it looked like there weren't any traps around. As they got closer to a black cube, they found Sora inside it. Then, a girl with Hijiri's face appeared and laughed, saying she had been waiting for Arata. Mira quickly reminded him that the girl was just a fragment of Ilia. The Hijiri lookalike told them she had successfully sealed the magic from Arata's grimoire. If she destroyed Mira, it would just be her and Arata left, and time and space would stop right there. After that, they would be together in that place forever. Suddenly, monsters started appearing one after another. Mira could feel a strong, impure aura, and Arata recognized it as a serious threat. The girl with Hijiri's face said Arata meant everything to both her and Hijiri, and that the only one in real danger was Mira. Sora then spoke to Arata telepathically, without anyone else noticing. She explained that she was trapped inside the core of the barrier, and if Arata destroyed it, the whole school would collapse. Still, she was trying to do something from within the cube, and asked Arata to buy her some time. Arata addressed the girl as a fragment of Ilia, but she asked him to just call her Ilia, since that's what Hijiri called her too. Arata said he would stay there on one condition, that she let Mira go. Mira was surprised that Arata would make that kind of decision. Arata asked if Ilia only wanted him. If that was the case, then Mira didn't mean to be there. Ilia admitted that was true, and that she didn't mean Mira. In that world, it would just be the two of them. Ilia agreed and told Arata to come to her. Hearing that, Mira told him there was no need to sacrifice himself like that. But Arata said he was acting as her representative and had to make sure she got out safely. Mira insisted that he was just a temporary stand-in, but Arata smiled and told her to find a way to bring him back after she escaped. Ilia walked up to Arata, and he asked whether Sora would die if left in that place. Ilia replied that grimoires couldn't die. The only true death for a grimoire is being forgotten forever. Arata said that was incredibly sad. It was hard to forget someone with Sora's energy and personality. Ilya remarked that Arata was surprisingly kind, considering he thought that way about a grimoire, which was technically just a tool. Then Arata asked whether it was really true that Hijiri wanted to destroy the world. Ilya said the Hijiri he once knew was no longer the same. This version of Hijiri would bring the world to an end and destroy all the floating islands. When that time came, Arata would have to beg for her mercy, for his own sake. Ilya added that she couldn't allow Mira to leave the barrier, so she planned to kill her as quickly as possible. Just as Arata was about to strike Ilya, something wrapped tightly around his legs. It turned out Ilya had suspected that Arata would try to communicate with Sora through telepathy. According to her, he had underestimated what a girl in love was capable of. She claimed that a girl who truly loved someone would know everything about the guy she loved. She wanted to tie him to her, not letting any other girl get close to him. And that, to her, was what real love looked like. Meanwhile, Sora suddenly realized that Ilya was using a device to drain her magic. Ilya declared that Sora would remain there forever, serving as her personal source of energy. It was only then that Sora fully understood she had walked into a trap. Just as Mira was about to attack Ilya, monsters appeared and stopped her. Ilya paid Mira no attention, saying she was ready for Mira to die already. Arata desperately wanted to help Mira fight off the monsters, but the binds on his body were only getting tighter. Ilya told him he didn't need to worry about Mira at all. In her view, Hijiri would definitely get jealous. She told Arata to just watch what Hijiri was about to do to Mira. And on top of that, he'd also see his grimoire lose its purpose and turn into something completely useless. Seeing both Sora and Mira in pain, Arata called out to Ilya and stared at her with pure anger. He said he genuinely liked seeing girls smile. All he ever wanted was for his friends to be happy and to spend their days smiling. That was all that mattered to him. Then he asked, was he really going to fail again just because of some incomprehensible power called magic? If that were the case, he'd never be able to take control of anything. Sora suddenly screamed at Ilya to stop Arata, but his anger had already reached its limit, and in that moment, Arata transformed. Sora explained that this was his true form, the form of the next demon lord, the one hidden deep within him. This was the real power of the Astral Trinity. Arata transformed after unleashing all his rage. Ilya looked terrified and didn't see it coming. Sora mentioned that Arata's form at that moment was the Astral Trinity Magic King. Arata immediately removed the magic power from Ilya, which caused her claws to vanish instantly, returning her to her original form. Then he freed Sora from her seal. Sora was thrown out and fell to the ground. Arata told Ilya that this was the power she wanted. Mira quickly ran to Sora and asked if she was okay. Sora replied that she had broken free from her confinement. Not long after, Arata triggered a phenomenon of destruction to take control over it. Sora explained that it was the manifestation of Arata's Thema control because, at its core, magic is the will of the Magic King. Mira realized her magic had returned. Sora said it was thanks to Arata. More precisely, the Magic King had taken over that world and seized control from Ilya. Mira wasn't going to let that happen. She activated her magic by connecting to the Superbia archive. Sora told her to do it fast or not at all. Mira and Sora dashed toward Arata to try to stop him, but Arata erased their magic and their clothes disappeared in an instant. Arata gently touched Mira's face and told her she had potential that matched his. He then asked her to become his, leaning in to kiss her. But Mira immediately slapped him across the face. She told him the person in front of her wasn't the Arata she knew, which is why she rejected his kiss. Hearing that, Arata's form almost reverted to normal. While he was distracted, Sora used her magic to bring him back to his original self. Soon enough, Arata was back to normal. Sora let out a breath of relief and said she liked the silly version of Arata better. Arata looked weak but seemed okay. He thanked Mira for slapping him. Turns out, it snapped him back to his senses. Arata said that it wasn't the time to be fighting and asked what they should do about everything. Sora said the fastest way to end it all was to defeat Ilya, the magic book girl. Mira agreed, saying Ilya was the core of that world. But Arata said he had no intention of defeating her to end it all. Instead, he asked Ilya how they could get out of that world. He admitted he wouldn't mind staying there forever with her, but he wanted to see Hijiri in person. Also, if they couldn't leave, he wouldn't be able to thank Ilya properly, because he knew she was the one who took Hijiri's place while she was gone. Arata told her she had helped him a lot, and he genuinely wanted to thank her. Sora was confused why Arata wanted to thank Ilya, even though she had planned to trap him. Arata said he'd rather get along with someone, even if that person tried to kill him. Mira was shocked by what he said and said she had a lot of questions for him once they got out. She added that Arata was truly a sinful man. Ilya apologized to Arata and said that the space they were in was no longer under her control, so there was nothing she could do about it. Sora suspected it had something to do with the black sun Arata created. Arata didn't even realize he could do something like that. Sora remarked that the Magic King truly had incredible power. Arata believed he must be an amazing Magic King, but to Mira, he was always just a walking disaster. Ilya was puzzled that they could laugh while stuck in such a terrifying situation, especially since there was no way out of the space she created and they might all vanish there. Arata said that somehow he and his friends always managed to pull things off. According to Sora, Arata just had unusually good luck, even though Mira thought he was always causing trouble. Ilya asked if Arata and the others would really be able to make it through. Arata was confident they could, as long as everyone worked together. Then Arata summoned his gun. Sora realized he had already learned to use 2 spells at the same time since becoming a demon lord, and Mira pointed out that his impure magic had grown even stronger. Sora and Mira activated their own spells, and Arata called out to Ilya, inviting her to be his friend again once they returned to the other world. Touched, Ilya burst into tears and hugged him. At that moment, Arata felt his power calm and stabilize. It turned out Ilya had transferred all of her magic to him. Her specialty was support magic. Combining everyone's magic, they prepared to launch an all-out attack on the Black Sun. Arata fired off Meteor Dragoner, Sora followed up with Scarlet Gavura, and Mira used White Universe. The combined attack successfully wiped out the black color from the sun. Not long after, Lilith and Akio called out to them. Lilith felt relieved to see Arata and Mira safe, since she had no idea where they were earlier. Suddenly, Arata collapsed into Lilith's arms. Mira explained that he was completely exhausted from transforming into the Demon Lord and using such a huge amount of magic. She added that Arata's magic was nearly depleted. Lilith didn't quite understand what Mira meant, so Mira suggested they continue the conversation after some rest. She also asked them to help get everyone out of that place. Then, out of the blue, Akio asked when Mira had started calling Arata by his first name. Embarrassed, Mira claimed it was because he was the acting vice captain. Akio laughed and said she didn't mind at all. Lilith suggested they head back to school right away. Without warning, Akio picked up Mira, who was totally caught off guard. Akio admitted she had been seriously worried about Mira, but she was really glad to see her safe. Lilith pointed out something even more important. Arata now had 2 Demon Lord grimoires. Suddenly, Lilith sensed someone watching them. It turned out to be Hijiri, observing from a distance. She had a feeling that one day she and Arata might end up as enemies. That night, Lilith, Mira, and Akio stayed in a room at Leber Academy. They decided to stay close since Arata was still unconscious from exhaustion. Akio guessed he had used up almost all of his magic because she couldn't feel any power coming from his grimoire. Mira thought that Arata's transformation into the Astral Trinity Demon Lord was extremely dangerous. According to her, once the Demon Lord's consciousness took over Arata, he became completely uncontainable, and there would be nothing anyone could do to stop him. Akio asked half seriously if Arata was really that dangerous. Maybe they should just kill him now. Mira was shocked to hear her say that. But Akio quickly clarified she wasn't actually planning to do it. She liked Arata. Plus, Yui and Arin would be furious if she ever hurt him, and she was pretty sure Mira and Lilith would be angry too. Lilith and Mira immediately denied it, insisting they didn't care about a sinful guy like Arata. Akio couldn't help but laugh at their reactions. Lilith then said they should probably report everything to the headmaster, since they needed to figure out their next move. Akio asked who had destroyed Liber Academy. Mira explained that it was a grimoire, the Shattered Iliad. She suspected the one responsible was the girl Arata had been searching for, Hijiri, the former owner of that legendary grimoire. Mira believed Hijiri was a powerful mage who had made a contract with the book and reached an advanced level of magic. Later that night, Arata finally woke up and softly called Hijiri's name. Suddenly, Hijiri appeared and gently took his hand. Arata smiled at her, saying there was no way he could ever forget her. He apologized for not reaching out to her hand before she vanished, saying that because of that, he couldn't save her. Hijiri forgave him and said she was happy he had become a mage to rescue her. Arata said he would do whatever it takes to save Hijiri, which is why he needs to become stronger and bring her back. Hijiri asked if Arata knew that she was his enemy and even stronger than him. Arata admitted he could feel that, but still he was a powerful candidate to become the Demon Lord. Hijiri smiled and said that Arata meant a lot to her, and now it turns out he's the Demon Lord. Arata confessed that's exactly why he was going to make sure to reach out and take her hand. Hijiri said she would be waiting for him. But then, in a sudden twist, she tried to destroy him right then and there. Hijiri prepared to attack Arata with her magic, while Arata simply smiled. Out of nowhere, an explosion happened, knocking Arata down. Lilith rushed in, asking if he was okay. Arata said the person in front of him was Hijiri. Lilith realized it too and pointed out that Hijiri didn't look hurt at all, even though Lilith had just shot her. Hijiri recognized Lilith as a student from Royal Biblia Academy, known for being the youngest genius magician and one of the Trinity Seven. Lilith suspected that Hijiri also had a demon lord element, just like Lisa. It turned out Hijiri had gained it from the destroyed world that had sucked her in that day, a transformation far beyond standard Magus mode powered by that element. Hijiri's appearance changed as she revealed that her outfit was the embodiment of the Archive of Ira. The clothes she wore represented destruction with the Thema Ruina, creation with the Thema Partum, and deconstruction with the Thema Analysis. Hijiri had mastered all three themas, reaching the ultimate state called Trinity. Lilith dropped her weapon and ran over to hug Arata. She knew his magic was nearly gone, and if he got hit by Hijiri's attack, he would vanish for real. Lilith was determined to protect Arata no matter what. Hijiri said she was going to take the magic from Arata's grimoire, and if she could do that, then maybe one day she could recreate him. Arata said if it was possible, he hoped Hijiri wouldn't kill him. But Hijiri responded by telling him to endure her attack, telling him to withstand the explosion of ire from her. She fired her Black Azazel spell straight at Arata, but just in time the attack was blocked by Erin. Erin heard the commotion and immediately tore through space and time to teleport to their location. Lilith was shocked that Erin could even teleport through space-time like that. Erin thought it was either because Arata had called her or maybe because she was able to manifest the spear once used by Skafach, the founder of the Chaotic Rune. Hijiri recognized it as the demonic spear Gibolg, admitting that Erin really could neutralize her magic using that weapon. Suddenly, Akio and Mira showed up, arriving just in time to help Arata. Mira called out to him, asking if he was still alive. Erin was surprised when she heard Mira calling Arata by his name. That hadn't been the case before, so she figured Mira might be in her Dare mode. Arata explained that he was still alive thanks to Lilith and Erin who had saved him. Hijiri said Arata had surpassed even Magic Kings because he managed to call on his friends to deal with that strange space. She also claimed that the situation at Biblia Academy was about to get even worse now that Erin had shown up there. Erin could have sealed Arata's power, and everyone else's, right then and there, but instead, she chose to stir up some chaos at the school. Hijiri, along with her group called Iscariot, was heading to Biblia Academy. If Arata didn't return soon, he might lose his place there. Arata tried to stop her, but Hijiri disappeared anyway. Lilith and Erin guessed that Hijiri had teleported to the school because Erin sensed the same kind of magic that appeared when Mira had been summoned there earlier. Erin apologized, saying it was her first time using that magic, and it only happened because Arata had called her. Arata still didn't quite understand the logic behind all of it, but to him, what mattered was that Erin came to save him, and for that, he was grateful. Erin felt happy that she was able to help him. Mira figured it was probably Hijiri and her group Iscariot who destroyed Liber Academy. They were most likely heading to Biblia Academy now, and it seemed like they were planning to wreck it too. Akio called them a huge pain, and Lilith pointed out that they couldn't just rush back yet, since Arata hadn't fully recovered. But Arata insisted they had to return. Lilith warned him that his magic was severely drained and pushing himself would be dangerous. Still, Arata said he was fine. What mattered more was that things would get even worse if the Trinity Seven didn't go back. Mira looked into her crystal ball and saw the situation at Biblia Academy. Sure enough, the only ones left there were Yui and Lifey. Arata stood up and said they couldn't just sit around. They had to move. He said he would go after Hijiri and do something about all of this. On that day, the magic school Biblia was bombarded with attack after attack from above the school building. The students screamed in fear while the teacher tried to calm them down. Leffy decided to go and check it out while the principal was left stunned, observing the event from his office. Leffy fought against Lu, who had launched an explosion at the Biblia school building. Lu was a user of Ildanik, a magical technique that allowed her to fight with incredible speed. It was an honor for Leffy because Lu praised her skill. Lu even said that she would praise Leffy again, and Leffy responded by telling her that she was actually ranked 3rd in the world. Lu then revealed that she was ranked 2nd. During their fight, Leffy's left hand was cut by Lu's sword, and she felt like she couldn't fight properly without her left arm. Lu replied that she would fight with just one hand as well. Suddenly, the principal cheered Lei Fei on. Lei Fei was surprised because she had expected the principal to help her, but the principal explained that he wanted to assist her. However, he had to fight against a girl who was behind Lu. Lei Fei could even sense the powerful magic coming from that girl. Out of nowhere, Yui and Selena contacted Lei Fei to let her know that they had evacuated their friends into the dream world. The principal heard the telepathic message from Yui and Selena and felt relieved. He said that they could rebuild the school, but if a witch died, the students would never be able to return. Yui and Selena encouraged him, promising that they would help him. Lei Fei declared that she would do whatever she could. She then blew her whistle, and Lu asked why she did that. Lei Fei explained that if she could stall for time, help would arrive, and that was what she was hoping for. Lu even said that it didn't look like Lei Fei was hoping for that to happen. Rather, she seemed to be wishing that they wouldn't come. Lei Fei responded by saying that this was why she trusted Lu and why her research was focused on this theme. Lei Fei then demonstrated her ninjutsu technique, creating wind shadows. She multiplied herself and attacked Lu. When Lu tried to strike, she didn't hit anything because it was an illusion spell. However, Lei Fei preferred to call it a combination spell of friendship. Lei Fei appeared behind Lu and immediately struck her. They fought fiercely, and without Lu realizing it, Lei Fei had managed to injure her neck. Lei Fei explained that the purpose of the illusion was to create opportunities like this. Lu then asked how Lei Fei could keep up with her when she had been moving at such high speed earlier. Lei Fei answered that it was a secret. Upon hearing this, Lu said that she would forget her question and focus on defeating Lei Fei. Lu then attacked Lei Fei with both of her swords at lightning speed. Seeing this, Yui panicked and made her dream world turn dark. Selena urged Yui not to panic because if she did, Yui wouldn't be able to maintain her dream world anymore. Yui calmed down. Lei Fei was severely injured, spitting blood. Lu remarked that it seemed Lei Fei's ninja techniques wouldn't work against her two swords, which were enhanced by the speed of light. The principal began to worry about Lei Fei, but she reassured him that she could still fight because she was a ninja and had good endurance. Lu didn't care what techniques Lei Fei would use. She was confident that Lei Fei wouldn't be able to defeat her because, in a sense, Lu was light itself, and nothing could move faster than the speed of light. Lei Fei acknowledged this, admitting that she would be powerless if Lu attacked with that speed. However, she would show her that a ninja could shatter reality itself. Lei Fei decided to use her strongest magic technique, Last Crest Invidia. Selena and Yui were very worried about her because this technique carried great risks. Lu said it seemed like Lei Fei was ready to die. Lu then stated that if Lei Fei was going to use her strongest technique, she would do the same with the same resolve. Lei Fei unleashed her magic technique, and Lu finally realized that Lei Fei could attack her from all directions at the same time, even while moving at the speed of light. Lu called it an incredible destroyer, an unmatched power, a force of nature so strong it could be called a demon, the pinnacle of shamanic spells. Unfortunately, Lu was disappointed because the Last Crest Invidia, which she thought would be much more impressive, turned out to be less extraordinary. She was also curious if Lei Fei really believed that her destroyer could defeat the goddess of light. Lu easily stopped Lei Fei's strongest magic technique. It turned out that Lei Fei had been playing with her, pretending to use her last crest, and that was when she made her escape. Lei Fei ran away with the headmaster, who had already set up a barrier, but it was only a matter of time before Lu would find her. Lei Fei mentioned that at least she had bought some time, and she bandaged her left arm, which was injured. Lei Fei said she had asked Yui to use Arc Symphony to cast a spell on the timeline ahead, which was why she managed to escape. Yui reached out to Lei Fei again to check on her, and Lei Fei told her that she wasn't in the best condition, hoping that someone would come to rescue her. Yui really hoped that Arata and the others would return soon. Meanwhile, Arata still couldn't come back because it turned out that her teleportation device had been destroyed. Lilith suspected it was Hijiri's doing. Mira explained that the teleportation device had been built using ancient high-tech, and its complexity was enormous. Akio said they would need dozens of specialists to help fix it. Arata asked if they needed a different device, but Erin said it would take a day to reach the nearest location. Arata wondered what they should do, as they had no more time left. Lilith said she could handle it as long as everyone helped her. Mira mentioned that they had been working her hard recently. Akio remarked that they had to show how great the Trinity 7 really was. Lilith and her friends started working on it. Meanwhile, Lu was walking through the corridor looking for Lei Fei. Lu could feel Lei Fei's presence, so when Lei Fei tried to attack her in secret, Lu easily blocked the strike. Lei Fei's movements were faster than before, as she had been healed by the Headmaster's magic while they were hiding. This allowed Lei Fei to use her left hand a little. Leffy threw her knife-like gaze at Lu, and Lu managed to dodge it. Not only that, but Leffy also used her ninja binding thread technique, so any slight movement from Lu would result in her getting cut. Lu activated her magic through the NVIDIA archives with the Thema of Virtus Arm. She summoned the Light Spear and Sword, Bryonak and Fragarak in both hands, as well as the Light Wings Cleum Soles. In an instant, Leffy's binding threads were severed. Leffy didn't even realize that someone with the Trinity title could do such a thing. The headmaster commented that they were all legendary treasures that could only be obtained after mastering their own themas, and Lu was using her 3 highest treasures. Lu explained that she had also become a candidate for the Magic King after receiving the Magic King element. In a flash, Lu was able to defeat Leffy and mentioned that she had decided not to use her last crest, as it would have been too dangerous for her. Seeing Leffy fall, covered in blood, Yui screamed and cried. She said she had to help Leffy, but Selena stopped her, explaining that if she went, it would be dangerous for all of her school friends. Yui said she couldn't leave Leffy behind. At that moment, Yui became so worried that she made the dream world turn dark. Selena decided to go help Leffy, telling Yui that she was the younger sister of one of the Trinity 7, Lise. She also mentioned that she and Lise had studied together and understood the material well. Yui reluctantly agreed, but Selena reassured her that she would definitely return. Selena immediately jumped into the world where Leffy and Lu were. She quickly bound Lu with her camera magic. Lu had already anticipated something like this would happen. Selena quickly approached Leffy and told her that she would stop the bleeding using a healing macro spell. Lu commented that the macro magic that bound her was crafted really well, but she didn't think it was anywhere near strong enough to fight a witch who had reached Trinity level. Lu easily broke the magic binding and said that Selena would die. Just before Lu fired a spell at Selena, Selena softly called out to her older sister. The explosion from Lu's spell was so powerful that it damaged the corridor floor. The blast was so huge because Lu couldn't hold back her power when she used that form. After that, Lu aimed to eliminate the principal. The principal said that it seemed like there was someone Lu had to face. Suddenly, a voice from Lise was heard, saying that the principal had already made a date with her. Lise mentioned that Lu had hurt both her friend and younger sister, and she wouldn't forgive her. At that moment, Lise entered Selena's body. Lu realized that Lise was using her last crest and trapped her in her world forever. Lise and Leffy were in the infirmary at the time, so that's why Selena could contact Lise. So Selena had frozen Lise's world with her camera, and at that moment, Selena was in Lise's world. Simply put, they swapped places using Selena's magic camera. Selena was confident that Lise would be able to handle things with her body. As Lu prepared to attack Lise, Lise had already switched places. She said that Lu's magic was no match for hers. Selena bound Lu using magic from Lise's world. Lise said that the camera could imprint a moment of light on the film, and at that moment, Lu had been imprinted into that world by Selena's camera and was trapped there. When Lu tried to activate her light spear, Bryonak, suddenly the light spear shattered. Lise teased her, saying, "Nice move," but Lu responded that she was wiser than Lise because she'd rather lose her weapon than her moves. According to Lise, Lu had lost control of one of her legendary weapons and used its power to break Lise's spell. Lise then asked what would happen if she used the same technique twice. Lu got frustrated and said that she would defeat Lise. As Lu prepared to attack, she had a feeling that Lise would do the same thing to her. Lise aimed her camera, but just as Lu disappeared and appeared behind her, Lu fired her light attack. Lise tried to dodge, but when Lu thrust her light sword, Lise screamed in fear, though it turned out she was just joking. Leffy, who was behind Lu, immediately swung her sword at Lu's body. She used her secret technique, Avidia Slash. It turned out that Lise hadn't taken a picture of Lu, but was actually trying to heal Leffy. At that moment, the camera bound Leffy's pain and blood to stop her bleeding and speed up her recovery. Leffy really liked how well Selena and Lise combined their powers. Lu had lost her legendary weapon and would need a long time to use it again. Her chances of attacking were now under 15%. Leffy suggested that Lu should just back off, but Lu apparently planned to team up with Hijiri. Hijiri asked if Lise had decided to become a good witch. Lise said that she had lost to Arata, the precious Magic King candidate. Hijiri then asked if Lise was sure of her decision, if she chose a stagnant form for herself, since the world she came from had no future. Lise said that she didn't want to leave Selena in a world like that forever, but someone wanted to save her and lecture her, saying that her friends wanted her back, so Lise liked that world. Hijiri reminded everyone that she and Lu were evil witches, so they would not allow traitors to escape. According to Lise, since she was an evil witch, it would not be a problem if she betrayed herself. At that moment, Leifi was about to assist Lise in attacking Hijiri and Lu, but suddenly Yui informed Leifi that her magic was almost fully recovered and she would help. Unexpectedly, Yui's telepathy was heard by Hijiri, who then decided to kill all three of them before the Magic King could fully control Trinity 7. Suddenly, Hijiri felt something dangerous in the area. Out of nowhere, Arata appeared from his teleportation and accidentally fell onto Lu. Arata unintentionally grabbed Lu's chest, and not long after, Lilith arrived and fell on top of Arata, followed by Erin, Aikio, and Mira, who managed to land in the area. Leifi and Yui were delighted to welcome them. Mira asked if Arata had done something wrong to the girl he had just met, as his hand was still holding her chest. Arata explained that it was an accident, not something he enjoyed, but then he added that he did enjoy it. Hearing this, Lisa laughed. She told Hijiri that she would remain on the side of good, alongside her friends in Trinity 7. Arata told Hijiri that it was time for them to launch a counterattack.